Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Key of Threes. We got a ton of off seasons to talk about today. We're going to, of course, talk about some of those draft decisions that were made only a couple nights ago when we discussed some of those off seasons, and we're not going to waste any time in doing so. We got Charlotte to talk about. We got Portland to talk about off rip, so we got to talk about those draft decisions. We'll also be talking about Orlando's 2 lottery selections, the Wizards trades that they've made over the last couple of days, and their lottery selection, and we'll be finishing that off with the Denver Nuggets. But if you do go on to enjoy some of these offseason preview discussions we have, be sure to hit that like button down below. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. And let's go ahead and get started. We said we're going to start with the draft, and we'll start with arguably the biggest draft decision of the night, and that was what the Charlotte Hornets decided to do. I know you got some thoughts that you wanted to give about that, Steph, so let's hear it.
Immediately, I think all of us we were kind of shocked they didn't pick Scoot. That was much of NBA Twitter, the world's reaction. But my one reaction to it after picking Nick Smith Jr. was that it's not that bad. I feel like with Brandon Miller, you got an excellent scorer, a guy with raw talent that can really develop. But with Nick Smith Jr., who fell, and part of that was because he did get injured, Anthony Black was pretty much the person starting over him. So Anthony Black did get picked above him. But Nick Smith Jr. was still an excellent facilitator in college. He was still a player that was he was pretty good. He wasn't a player that was a slouch. And again, he fell primarily because of injury. And I think they got a player that second ball handler next to LaMelo Ball, though he's not as good as Scoot is. We know that. But I don't think they needed a guy that was superstar level with LaMelo to do that, to complement him. And to be honest, okay, well, let me be careful because I almost called CJ McCollum a superstar. That's not what I mean. But we have seen that when two guard positions and they're both ball dominant in terms of shot creation, scoring, things of that nature, it doesn't really work out too well. So I think Nick Smith he's a perfect guy to complement LaMelo's development. And with Brandon Miller there, he's going to facilitate to him as well. And as if any of you guys saw Devin Short earlier, he mentioned that they have a pretty good big that he didn't play too much, but he's still a player that can be a quality roller, a quality guy to be in the pick and roll with LaMelo, with Nick Smith Jr., come off the roll, and you have Brandon Miller or something like that in the corner. Now, going forward, I think there needs to be a priority to sign PJ Washington. I don't know if Miles Bridges is looking to stay. It doesn't seem like that. We've heard rumors of him going pretty much everywhere. But if he is looking to stay, if he is looking to, still develop with everyone else, sign there. But personally, I feel like Miles Bridges is trying to win at this point. Not to say he's, much older than the rest of the guys that are there, but I feel like he's ready for winning basketball, and the Hornets aren't going to be that by the time the season starts. They have some pieces there. I'm not too familiar with James Najee, but Amari Bailey, he has raw talent. We all know who he is. We saw him through high school. He played with Bronny. But overall, they're going to be in a more development year more than anything else. But I think they need to solidify their pieces the rest of the offseason. Of course, LaMelo gets his extension. And then from there, you bring back PJ Washington. And I think you have a solid foundation to build off of after that.
For sure, for sure. Speaking a little bit about the draft, was surprised that they didn't pick Scoot, but after we get the draft day takes in and whatever, I'm not mad at the pick. Honestly, as you said, this is going to not be a win now year. It's not like they needed a right now type player, and which Brandon Miller looks pretty NBA ready as well. So it's not like it's that much far of a gap. I think that the Charlotte's approach here was pretty good. In fact, that like they got a different position they needed instead of picking up, the best talent available, which was another guard, a guard who, we know that LaMelo needs to have the ball in his hand in order to facilitate. It would have been a little bit of questions with how Scoot was going to play and all of that. So I think that, them choosing the safer option is definitely going to be a benefit. You talk about some of the free agents, Miles Bridges, I think definitely isn't going to be back with the Hornets. PJ Washington would also, I would say, not no, he's probably going to be back. I would say that they need to bring him back. I like PJ Washington on that team. And yeah, I hope that this season LaMelo gets that extension. We see a full season of LaMelo ball, because I actually do like LaMelo when he plays, and he can build chemistry with his fellow number 2 pick. Wait, no, LaMelo was number 3. Was he number 2?
3.
I forget.
LaMelo was 3.
He
He was 3.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
he can build
Behind
talent
one.
with his fellow lottery pick, fellow top 3 pick.
Man, oh man. First thing first, man. I just want to start the show by saying, Brandon Miller, you a one delusional dude, bro. You ain't making no NBA finals, bro. Do not cut that stuff out.
Don't never say never. That shit
Never.
happen,
Never.
that shit
Never.
happen.
They are never. Bro, he's talking about worry about winning Rookie of the Year over Scoot and Victor. But anyways, the Charlotte Hornets, man, they always have a questionable time when it comes to draft selections, right? And I'm not saying Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson was the wrong decision. Whatever way they went, obviously they went Brandon Miller. The more and more I think about it, I said on Draft Show, I think you go best available. Obviously, they went best fit. But just looking at these draft picks since 2012, bro, they went from Jeffrey Taylor to Cody Zeller in 2013 to Noah Vonleh in 14, 15. They had Frank Kaminsky, but none of these players are even on the roster anymore, bro. They don't know how to draft. Now, obviously, they have some solid pieces on their team with LaMelo, PJ Washington, and stuff like that. But my question is too, because I do think a report is coming out. They want Miles Bridges back, and I do think he does stay with his team. Miles Bridges and Brandon Miller are some like what? Miles Bridges is 6'7", and Brandon Miller is about 6'9". Is
Something like that.
around there. Is Brandon Miller coming off the bench when he starts? Like, where are they going to operate with that? And I know they want to bring back PJ Washington because he's one of their main guys too. So they do have a lot of decisions, but these are good decisions, believe it or not. I do like this the team that they are forming with if they can retain PJ Washington in the sense, and I think they're going to give a contract to Bridges or whatnot. I don't think it'll be too much just because I don't want to say ruined his life, but he definitely lowered his bag a little bit. Just having that team, just of a group of young players of Miles Bridges, LaMelo, Brandon Miller, PJ Washington, and also shout out to Devin, man. He loves those bigs over there. You got Nick Richardson over there. You drafted a big, and I'm having a brain fog.
Mark
the other
Williams.
big.
Mark Williams.
Yeah, Mark Williams. They got a lot of good young talent over there. My question is now, can this coach, Steve Clifford, I believe, can he develop all these young guys? How are they going to work this out? How's the rotations going to be? I do like what they're building over there. But LaMelo Ball needs to take that next step. He needs to be a little bit more efficient. He needs to be that guy over there. Or is it going to be Brandon Miller? We'll see. But I do like the direction of Charlotte Hornets and what they're doing. And I think they do have a bright future. I still think they're frauds, and I don't think they'll be – let me not say frauds. Let me just say I hate when people in NFL, NBA, they come into drafts, they are a high pick, and they think they're going to bring this team some crazy stuff, bro. It's not even realistic. And then, like, at least 5 years is not realistic, bro. So just shut your mouth, Brandon Miller. Like I said, worry about winning the Rookie of the Year or getting on all NBAs or whatever the case is. Worry about that before we talk about a team thing, because we all know this team is not ready for no prime time, bro. I know they're not the worst team, but let's be honest, Detroit is way better than them. Cade was out for the whole year, so they had an easily better record than them. So that means Charlotte is one of the worst teams in the league. But they're definitely going to turn around. So shout out to them. And the pick is cool, and we'll see in the next 5 years who's the better selection.
Man, we will see the next 5 years who's the better selection. And you guys all brought up great points, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna touch on the same thing that I touched on that draft that draft night when I talked about either the fit or the talent, which I agree. Scoot is the better talent, and in a lot of cases, and even Trent said it, right? Like sometimes you just take the better talent. But in my opinion, I said it at draft night, and I'll say it again. I think they made the right decision going with Brandon Miller. They chose the fit, right? It's not like Brandon Miller doesn't have any talent. He has a lot of talent, and he fits so much better, like exponentially better than what Scoot fits next to LaMelo. I mean, Mo talked about LaMelo's the fact that he needs the ball in his hands. Scoot also needs the ball in his hands. There's a negative. You could also talk about the negative of the Hornets already struggle defensively. Their backcourt already is small. You're going to add another smaller guard on that backcourt. With a player like LaMelo, you usually have a player next to him that can help hide him on defense, so he doesn't have to exert as much on defense, and he can really be that playmaker and that guy on offense. If you had Scoot, that wouldn't be able to be the case. They wouldn't be able to hide each other. So just on as far as the pick, I'm very happy they went with Brandon Miller. You're talking about pairing up a young Hornets team with this young Brandon Miller pick, a 6'9" forward who can shoot the ball, and just, in my opinion, just fits in that team much better. So while I may be surprised on the pick, because I know the Hornets front office don't usually always make the best decisions, I'm happy they made the pick, because they made a good decision here in this instance, as Jordan his last farewell pick on his way out. As far as PJ Washington, you guys all made some great points on PJ Washington. The only thing I want to add on that is the fact that, man, if the Hornets want to keep him this season, right, this off season, they're gonna have to overpay for him, because he just proved himself so much this last season, with now Miles Bridges being out and having an opportunity. We all talked about the fact that he really took a jump, had a big year. So if in a player like that, he's not let's be honest, how many big bags is PJ Washington going to get in his career? I don't know. And I think this may be one of his biggest chance to get one of the bigger bags of his career. So I think that either the Hornets are going to have to overpay for him, or he's going to go chase a bag elsewhere. And then just want to touch on some free agents as well. Of course, extend LaMelo if he's part of the future. PJ Washington, like I mentioned, Kelly Oubre. Shoot, I mean, he's not a priority, but if you can keep him as a luxury, you know what I'm saying? Keep him as a luxury. But who I do want to touch on, and this is a little bit of I just got love in my heart for this guy, and that's Dennis Smith Jr., man. I know the league forgot about him after Luka came over and took over the Dallas Mavericks, but Dennis Smith Jr. is still that guy. Dennis Smith Jr. can still contribute big time. So just want to give a shout out to Dennis Smith, but that's my daughter in the back. Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, good. Hornets is cool. They're cooked anyway. Go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah. No, I was also on the fence. I feel like with most of us, in terms of just how we thought, Scoot still should have been picked second, even though LaMelo was the true point guard. And I know, like you said, John, you thought differently. I think looking at the rest of their draft, you look at Nick Smith, you look at James Najee and Amari Bailey, it felt like for the most part, they drafted kind of the best choices, or some of the best choices that were available. So in that sense, I'm not really too upset with them going with Brandon Miller now at number 2. I still think, Scoop probably would have got you more value if you did trade it, but, it seems like they're going to hold on to Brandon Miller. So, I mean, with that being said, it does make sense, especially because I don't really know how much longer. I've always been high on Gordon Hayward. I still think that he can contribute on just about any team in the league that utilizes him properly, but I just don't know where his future aligns with the Charlotte Hornets. I feel like his days are numbered, or they're very close to numbered. But just looking at this team, I'm looking at some of the free agents, Bridges is restricted, PJ Washington restricted, and then you got Svi, Oubre, and Dennis Smith Jr. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if all those guys were on a different team next year. I don't think that could happen, or I don't think it will happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if that did happen. You were even talking about the other day, Steph, there's probably going to be a lot of people that could be solid candidates for Kelly Oubre Jr. There's a lot of teams that could use a guy that could just, space the floor, be a catch and shoot guy for Svi. And I think PJ Washington will definitely generate a lot of interest, a lot of buzz. No pun intended, because we're talking about the Charlotte Hornets. Okay, but anyways, no, I think it's going to be tough to retain a lot of those guys. But I think most importantly, PJ Washington should be the first priority. And maybe I'd even say Kelly Oubre should be the second priority, just because with Miles Bridges, there comes a lot of baggage and you don't really know what to expect. But overall, I mean, I don't know. I don't know where the Hornets are gonna go. I'll shout out my friend Xander, because about almost 5 years ago now, October 1st, 2018, we made a bet that in 10 years from that day, the Charlotte Hornets, he said they will have a championship. And I said, no, they will not. We are almost halfway through that time, and we bet $1. So I'm going to frame that dollar when they never win the championship, and it's October 1st, 2028. So suck it, Xander. But that's about it. You can go ahead with that, Jay.
All right, so yeah, I know all of us are pretty much shocked that the Charlotte Hornets didn't take Scoot Henderson, but me personally, I do like the Brandon Miller fit way better. I was a little skeptical about the fit of LaMelo Ball and Scoot Henderson. I know a lot of people said Scoot Henderson is capable of playing off ball, but I don't know if I want the number 2 pick to not be fully himself. You know, when I got LaMelo Ball on my team, is that Michael Jordan's last terrible decision he will make for the Charlotte Hornets? I guess we will see. But the Charlotte Hornets have a lot of promise. I know Trent said that the Charlotte Hornets aren't, you know, even comparable to the Detroit Pistons or like the Houston Rockets or things like that. But I think they might be on the same level after draft night. I know since they didn't take Scoot Henderson, I like the guard depth and the guard firepower that they did draft with Amari Bailey and Nick Smith. I know you guys are really high on PJ Washington, but I'm gonna have to go the other way. The only reason that he averaged a career high in points per game is because he took the most shots of his career. I mean, he regressed in field goal percentage, he regressed in 3-point percentage. And if I'm the Charlotte Hornets front office, I just drafted PJ's replacement. PJ's replacement is Brandon Miller. I'm not bringing PJ back. In fact, I'm going to see if I could package PJ Washington and Gordon Hayward, who is only under contract for 1 more year next year, who's making $30 million, and seeing if I could bring some value back. With that being said, I'm also bringing back Dennis Smith Jr. Dennis Smith Jr. has proved himself to be one of the best defensive guards in the league. And I'm not gonna lie, for the first month or maybe month and a half of the regular season, he led the league in defensive rating. Like he was locking up guards, and I'm a big fan of Dennis Smith Jr. I feel like the injuries that he had suffered really set his career back, and he's gonna prove himself to still be a valuable player in the NBA. With that being said, I do think the Charlotte Hornets have a very bright future, and they're making the right moves right now to set themselves up, because I think it was just like unfortunate circumstance after unfortunate circumstance for them with the Miles Bridges situation. We know, and LaMelo Ball constantly being injured. But I do think when the Charlotte Hornets are healthy, they're going to be a playoff team. I'm talking for sure. Now, when it comes to bringing Miles Bridges back in the type of contract I would like to have him on, I would like to have him on, if it's possible, I'd sign him on a 1-year deal. I sign him on a 1-year deal, see what his actions off court is like, because we know the dynamic player that Miles Bridges is. I would see what his off court actions are like, because before the whole, situation happened with his wife, he was making some bad decisions on social media. So in that contract, I would have some in the meeting I'm having with Miles Bridges, I'm having some stipulations, like you have to present yourself as a professional going forward. And with Miles Bridges back, LaMelo Ball, you got Terry Rozier at the 2, Brandon Miller, and I like their bigs too. I like their bigs, Mark Williams and Nick Smith. Even drafted James Najee. Man, I like the Charlotte Hornets, man. I can definitely see them being in the playoffs.
I'm really happy you made some of the points you did, Jay. I'm going to touch on a couple of them in a minute. Briefly, I just want to mention the draft. I've made it very publicly known that I wanted Scoot to be the number 2 pick. I think he's much better than Brandon Miller. Fit you regardless at pick 2. I think he was the guy, but I'm not here to harp on that. I want to first mention, like you said, Jay, about Brandon Miller being the replacement for PJ Washington potentially. The Hornets are in an interesting situation now, because I think even though people obviously realize that Scoot and LaMelo is evidently a fit that's a little bit less clear of how that'll work on court, they have a lot of decisions now to make with their wings, because PJ Washington's a restricted free agent, as we've mentioned. Miles Bridges still has to be re-signed. You now have Brandon Miller. You now have Gordon Hayward. there's a lot of wings on this team that you're going to have to find minutes for. Now, Gordon Hayward's obviously the most obvious guy that's going to leave. You guys have mentioned the fact that he's only got 1 year left on his deal. I don't expect him to be on this team past the trade deadline, if not even before the season he's moved. So outside of that, you're looking at Miles Bridges, you're looking at PJ Washington, you're looking at Brandon Miller. None of those guys are probably coming off of your bench. So you have to make a decision who is going to be your 2 guys this summer. That's probably a decision that has to be made before training camp, which is not necessarily something that has been discussed. And I think all of them are worthy of starting positions. So I would imagine that Brandon Miller obviously is going to be one of those guys. He was just drafted 3rd overall, but they're going to have to make a decision between Miles Bridges and PJ Washington. One of them is going to be your starting 4, and one of them is probably either getting dealt or walking by the time the season begins. So we'll have to see how that situation plays out. But I don't imagine there's a world where all 3 of those guys are back. The other thing I want to discuss, like you alluded to, Jay, I think this team's a lot better than people think they are, or at least project them to be heading into next season. I know they had some rough outs in the play-in tournament the last couple of times they were in it, but they got there. And more specifically, the last time they got there, they were a 43-win team, which would have been better than all but one of the play-in teams this year. So this is a team that really was hurt by Miles Bridges not being able to play last year. This was a team that was really hurt by the fact that LaMelo Ball was out for the majority of last season. Another year of development from some of their young guys, have LaMelo Ball back in the court. We'll see what happens on the wing, but whether it's Miles Bridges, whether it's Brandon Miller, they're adding someone back to their team as a wing this year that is going to be a significant improvement over what they had last year. So I think this Hornets team, like you alluded to, Jay, I don't know if they're making the postseason next year, but they definitely have a shot to make the play-in tournament. And I think they're a lot better than we expect them to be. This was much more of a retooling year for me, in my opinion, than it was a rebuilding year.
Let me say something, because I seen Trill talk about Kelly Oubre, man. Oh man, bro, why are we so big on Kelly Oubre? This dude's a bum. And when I say bum, that's just how I talk. Kelly Oubre averaged 20.6 and 17 shot attempts this year. The Charlotte Hornets literally had nobody on the team. Everybody was injured. There was a point in time where Steve Clifford was like, we just don't have anybody. What are we supposed to do? There was a point in time where no one was even on the bench for this Charlotte Hornets team, bro. This dude's field goal percentages are horrible. The dude shot 32% from the 3-point line. That's terrible. He shot 7 3-pointers. From the field, he shot 43 points, bro. Like, why are we so high on this dude?
Can I ask you a question?
I'm generally curious to see why y'all so hot on this dude. For a team that, with Jay pretty much came at PJ Washington for saying he took his most shot attempts. Kelly Oubre in his career took his most shot attempts and averaged 20 points a game with terrible field goal percentage. So this is to the group. Why y'all so high on this dude?
Well, let me ask you a question, and then you can respond to that, Steph, because I think you were going to first. So when it comes to that, I know that's how you feel about Kelly Oubre, okay? But would you rather invest in bringing back him or trying to, bring back Miles Bridges, knowing the risk that he is, in your opinion?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm bringing back Miles Bridges. No question.
No question. What you thought.
Listen, Miles Bridges did what he did. I'm pretty sure he learned his lesson. The dude is almost out the league. And if he didn't learn his lesson, it is what it is. But like Miles Bridges at a point in time was literally the best player on that team and probably still is the best player in that team. You could compare it with him and LaMelo, whatever. But there's a reason why when he's not there, they're at the bottom.
I think also LaMelo being hurt the whole year was.
Even if LaMelo was there, they would have got a couple more wins. Let's stop acting like Miles Bridges was not this guy. Miles Bridges
he was. I agree with you. He was. I'm just saying, like, with the risk that he brings, and I know you said like he's more than likely learned his lesson.
We hope.
I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, okay, because that's just what we have to do. But there have been players that haven't, and so what I'm saying is Kelly Oubre. I feel like personally, like, he's not bad. He's one of their better players. You might think he takes too many shots for the points he generates, but at the same time, I feel like bringing him back is a more secured deal moving forward, especially from a culture standpoint. Because think about all the behind the scenes thing from Montrezl Harrell to Devontae Graham to LaMelo to Miles Bridges, and now even with Brandon Miller to an extent. But like all those things packaged into one, it just seems like for a culture fit and moving forward off of that, because the last 5 years, I'll even bring up that bet again. Ever since I made that bet, everything wrong has happened for the Charlotte Hornets behind the scenes. So, in the next 5-10 years, whatever it may be, that needs to be the biggest thing, accountability from an accountability standpoint that they need to fix. So that's why I would personally say Kelly Oubre. I feel like I agree with you. The last we saw Miles Bridges, if he plays anything like that, and if he has, learned his lesson, then I would agree with you. I just don't know because we haven't seen him in like a year and a half almost. So, but you can go ahead, Steph, or Trent, if you want to respond. It doesn't matter.
You can respond real quick if you need to.
I mean, I don't really got nothing to say. I mean, like, all I'll say is I want to say a lot of players in the league that you take a risk on in a sense, but there's a lot of players where like they got behavior issues, and we already know who the main behavior dude is in the NBA, John Wick Morant. You know what I'm saying? He's the
Warren.
You know what I'm saying? So like they're taking a huge risk with him just because he is their future. Not the future, but he's like their franchise guy. The NBA clearly giving him so many opportunities, only suspending him for 20 plus games when he should have been suspended for the season. I know this is about like the Hornets, but I'm just saying like Miles Bridges is their guy too. So like at some, you got to give them the benefit of doubt. I mean, if he fucks up again and does something stupid, then you move on. But also say like Kelly Oubre is not going to be there long term. I don't think so unless you give him a crate. Like I don't think they'll give him he's not going to be there long term. The dude's 27 years old, so the most you see him is 2 years. And then also like how much is he going to be asking for his agent? That's another thing. Like I know they don't really have much to lose in a sense because they're not like a championship level team. But I'm not really big on Kelly Oubre at all. Last time we seen him on a winning team, I believe, was the year of the Warriors. I could be wrong. I think
They didn't make the playoffs that year, so
So, bro, he's a player that's cool that could take 20 shots and put up 20 points on a bad team. But I just don't know if he could be on a winning team or he could be that guy in a sense.
Well, I was never thinking the Hornets would keep him or anything like that. I did speak about him going to the Grizzlies, but that was more so it's a completely different role. So the 20 shots, that would be an anomaly compared to what he would actually get if he went to a team that was actually worth something. So it's kind of harder for me to say because, again, the last time he really played on any team that was close to winning, their star got hurt. So they really didn't end up being a winning team. But it's not so much of the offensive end. I think he's a guy that provides great length on the defensive end. He's going to give you everything. He's got pause. Whoa. But regardless, we were also speaking about him in terms of a vet coming into Memphis. It wasn't necessarily just being high on him. It's just he's a guy that can also, he can do multiple things, but I think if you whittle down his touches, he'll be much more valuable in that sense. But what I really wanted to speak to was when Jay said PJ Washington was not that good or what have you. Like his field goal percentage, it went down about 10% or so. But his 3-point percentage, it didn't really go down too significantly. And, I mean, we already spoke to it, like with Miles Bridges being out, he's in a new role to where he's forced to get more touches. He's forced to get more shots. He's going to get more shots. And he's genuinely shown an improvement when he was put into that role. He averaged 5 more points than he did the year before. And you can say he was shot chucking, but majority of these players – right before they become good, they're shot chuckers. A lot of these players are shot chuckers before they start to figure out how to take shots, when to take shots, how to get to their spots, and all those other things. That's what comes along with being a pro and developing. I know he's in his 4th year, but his first 2-3 years, he was not in the role that he was in last year. So that's a different adjustment. And the fact that he showed improvement in that role, I think he showed enough for you to at least say, let's keep him around to see what he develops into. If it doesn't work out a year, 2 years from now, we can figure out what to do with him. We can move off of him. But I think he's shown enough to where you at least keep him and figure out, what you have. You evaluate what you have. Because again, the Hornets aren't looking to win. So you need to have some sort of evaluation period to see where you're at, to see where you stand against everybody else and see where you need help. Like we were saying, bring back Miles Bridges. I don't think he's looking to stay, but if you bring him back, that's LaMelo. I don't think Nick Smith is starting off rip. I'm not sure. It depends on training camp, things like that. But let's just say they bring back Dennis Smith Jr. You go Melo, Dennis, Miles, PJ, and then at the 5, you figure out if you want to go with Mark or if you want to go with James Najee or I feel like they have one more guy. Kai Jones.
They do have Kai Jones as well, but Nick Richards is the main.
Nick Richards. Okay. Well,
are you saying that also, like, if Rozier got traded? Is that what you're saying? Like, or
yeah, I'm saying if he's not there.
Okay,
So
I was gonna say because
yeah, well, they're talking about Rozier not wanting to be there and wanting to be traded. So I'm assuming that's going to happen at some point. And that's how I'm looking at, their lineup and everything. But regardless, speaking strictly to the PJ Washington point, he's shown enough improvement in a vastly different role than where he's been in before. He played center at one point, bro. He played center. Like that should tell you a lot. Like he's had to change positions pretty much overnight because of the Miles Bridges situation, and the fact that he's shown what he showed us, I think it's enough to keep him around.
Wait, hold up, Clutch. Before you go, bro. TB, for a guy to improve in a role where he's getting more touches, more opportunity, wouldn't you say it's improvement if if along with the field goal attempts going up, the efficiency should go up as well? Because if it's not, then you're just like any other player, an opportunity where I'm just giving you the ball to shoot.
Factor in though, like look at who he was around the other years. I'm not saying like. See, this is also just everybody. I feel like if you're playing with better players, you're going to get better
That's
looks.
exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah, so it's like if you don't have LaMelo Ball, if you don't have Gordon Hayward for a decent chunk, if you don't have Miles Bridges, like you're going to be asked to take a lot of harder shots. The defense is going to pay way more attention to you most of the time. So that's why I wouldn't look too much really into that. Like I know his numbers, like efficiency-wise, went down, his scoring went up, and all that. But like I feel like personally, he still could help out basically every team in the NBA. To some capacity as like a top 7 player on their team,
And then not for nothing, his first 2 years, he had Malik Monk on the team as well. So that's a good portion of the shots that he's seeing now that he had never seen before in his career.
And look at him.
So like,
I'm not saying that PJ Washington is ass by any means. I'm not saying that. But you guys are saying that he took a leap next year, and I'm not seeing the leap that you guys are saying. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I mean, I didn't say he took a leap.
I think he got better.
No.
He's still he. I think he improved, but I think also like he could help a lot of teams, especially coming into this restricted free agency year. Like,
I think with the PJ Washington situation, I think that like the difference right now is I think it's that fact that like Jay is more looking into like just numbers and just black and white and like here let's look at it with a 2020 view, like we're down the line. And I think TB and Garrett are more looking at it as an effect of like the play. Maybe you weren't maybe the numbers weren't there, but again, you were. Every year prior to this year, you were the 4th option. Now you're asked to take number one option shots, and like how they said, that's just much harder. And I think there's just that year of experience and learning that, and it's just a learning curve. And I think that's why he had this down year. But just real quick, I did want to touch on a question that you had earlier, Garrett. To Trent, you said Kelly Oubre or Miles Bridges. I personally actually would also go with Miles Bridges in this situation, only because I do understand he is more of a risk, only because I feel like as the player, I think Miles Bridges, we can all agree he's the far and better player. Also, I do believe he's younger. He's a younger player, and I believe the far and better player. And in this point with the situation with the Hornets, like you're down bad, you have nothing to lose. Like Trent made a great point. You have nothing to lose. Like you just bring on the best possible piece to make you. I'm not even gonna say championship contention, but like just to try to make you as best as possible. And then as far as the point that TB was making about Dylan Brooks, and Kelly Oubre, I think he more meant that as far as like you could just take Kelly Oubre and replace him in the TB role. But as far as Miles Bridges or Kelly Oubre, I feel like it should be pretty clear, even though Miles Bridges is a risk, like this Hornets team is a risk, and they need to just try to do something. And Miles Bridges is going to help out much more than Kelly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think like the only thing I was saying is like we don't, like us as the average fan, like we're not seeing all these like, I guess, this game action or whatever of Miles Bridges over the past year. So like there's players that maybe they take off a year. They were really good the last time we saw him. Like think about Ben Simmons, for instance. In 2021, this guy was like top 10 in MVP voting. You wouldn't believe it, but look back, he was. Then he missed a whole year, and now look at him since. So I'm just saying, like, there are instances where it's like someone might miss a whole year. Maybe they're not quite the same. Now, I'm not saying he's going to have that drop off or anything like that, but what I am saying is it could be different. It could be like a struggle early on. And so, like, at least with Kelly Oubre, I feel more confident. Like, I know what I'm going to get out of him. And as for Miles Bridges, you know, he could, if he plays just like how he did the last time we saw him, then, and if we know he's changed and everything like that, and that it's not going to happen again, it was just like a one-time thing, then definitely, like, I would take him. The only thing is, like, there are questions around that. And I feel like just how many questions the Hornets have had over the past, like, 4 or so years around their franchise, around their culture. It's like, why would you add to that mess unless you know that it's not going to be? So if they're confident with that, then for sure, I'm not ruling it out. I just say from my perspective as a fan on the outside, I don't know what Miles Bridges has done in the time off, that I would go with Kelly Oubre because I know what he's, you know, given us recently.
Yeah, that's fair.
See, me personally, I think with the Charlotte Hornets, I feel like that they've been in constant contact with Miles Bridges throughout this whole situation. And I do believe in people getting second chances. So I know no matter what, I'd give Miles Bridges a chance to redeem himself. And by no means do I think Kelly Oubre can do what Miles Bridges or provide the production that Miles Bridges does on a night-to-night basis. I'm out of Kelly, bro.
Who said that?
I agree. I agree with because I think he was more referencing the point of like taking Kelly Oubre over Miles Bridges. I think that's what more he's referencing. But I just want real quick. I just want to touch on I feel like the world has a bit of recency bias. Yes, what Miles Bridges did is horrendous. Like, if he gets trialed, man, he deserves jail time just like anyone else. But like prior to then, like he was just smoking some weed and sipping lean. Like the world was acting like he was like killing people. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe it's not the smartest thing to post because, you know, you got to understand this is a business and whatnot. But at the end of the day, like, you know, smoking weed and sipping some lean and not bothering nobody shouldn't be the reason that you're now a risk to not be to not get your contract, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say that there's nothing wrong with it, but posting it on social media, that's
it's wild. I agree. I'll give you that.
Hey, I'm gonna say this, and you can wrap it up, Devin. Bro, nowadays, bro, that's the generation, bro. This is the generation that we're in, bro. These are the basketball players that we watch on TV, no matter what. They all want to be gangster and this and that, whatever. Let them be, bro. As long as they're hoping for my team and doing whatever they got to do. And I don't really care about the legal shit, bro. It has nothing to do with me. Keep that over there. I'm worried about your hopes. That's it. I don't really care what you did outside of the basketball thing. Had nothing to do with me, bro. You feel me? So that's how I feel. But Miles Bridges, I'm taking him any day, any hour. I can't wait to see him back on the court.
Yeah, I mean, the Hornets definitely got
old school because
he's a Laker.
I said, y'all wonder why I'm so old school. I hate this generation.
You're a part of it, bro.
Don't you don't have to go there.
Even from a hoops perspective, regardless, the Hornets got a ton of decisions to make. So we'll see what they do with Miles Bridges, PJ Washington, Kelly Oubre. they definitely got a lot of decisions to make. But we're going to move on to the team that picked right after them in the Portland Trail Blazers at pick number 3. They were the guys who ended up getting the benefit of the doubt of Charlotte's decision and got Scoot Henderson at number 3. I'm going to put you on the spot, Jay. What did you think of the selection of Scoot Henderson at number 3? And what do you foresee from them as they move into this offseason with Damian Lillard, at least for the time being, still on the team, and most notably Jeremy Grant as well being a free agent?
Oh my God! All right, trade Dame. Get Damian Lillard on a first class flight out of Portland, please, bro. Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe. You got Anthony Simons. You have some really, really nice pieces that you can build around and have a promising future. And you could get some real nice, valuable, some really nice, valuable assets for Damian Lillard, bro. I think they need to trade him this offseason because Dame just had the best year of his career last year. I mean, we don't know if that's his peak. He is currently at peak trade value. You have to get rid of Dame. With Jeremy Grant, that's really tough. If I'm the front office, I'm really gauging. Do we think it's really a priority to try and make this team a contender now? Are we going to regret re-signing Jeremy Grant to a huge extension? Me personally, I don't like it. I wouldn't re-sign Jeremy Grant by any means. If I can, sign Jeremy Grant to a nice contract, package that with Dame, and clean your hands with both those players. But the Portland Trail Blazers are in a very interesting spot, and you guys already know how I feel they should execute going forward. I do like Matisse Thybulle. Matisse Thybulle is a nice perimeter player. It could really help with their defense going forward. And he's pretty young, and he does fit the timeline of the young players on the Portland Trail Blazers right now. Sort of. You got to get rid of Kevin Knox. Justice Winslow
he sucks.
He needs to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, he can also be a really good defender.
He sucks.
But the Portland Trail Blazers also took Chris Murray, and Chris Murray is a knockdown sharp shooter. It frustrates me that they have all this young talent but still refuse to rebuild and start from scratch. I understand Damian Lillard is the focal piece of your organization, best Trailblazer of all time. But you gotta let him go, man. Let him go get a chip.
Hey, man. Somehow the Portland Trail Blazers have executed their rebuild, come to the final stages of it, still with Damian Lillard in tow on the roster. I don't really understand what we're doing here. We bad enough to get the number 3 pick, but we're not trading the reason why we're not getting the number 1 pick. And we keep doing this song and dance about, does he want to stay? Does he want to, does he want to leave? Is the Blazers front office going to build a team around him that can actually contend? The answer is no. The answer is no, he's not going to leave. The answer is no, they're not going to trade him. We're going to do this again and again and again until the end of time, or until Dame retires, or until whatever. Honestly, I'm pretty damn sick of talking about the Trailblazers because it's literally the same thing every year. Hopefully they smarten up and trade him now while his value is probably as high as he's going to get. He's aging. He just had his best season. You can get a lot for him, especially with some of the trades that we just seen happen. You can get a lot for Dame. So the Blazers, they really just trade Damian Lillard. Please trade Damian Lillard. As far as some of the other free agents, Jeremy Grant, if they would like to, I guess they could bring him back, or like Jay said, send him in a package. Probably won't be with Damian Lillard because they're probably not going to trade Damian Lillard. But you can get some solid young pieces, solid trade picks or whatever for Jeremy Grant. He's not a must sign, I would say, especially when you're thinking about your young guards that you get. You just drafted Scoot. Simons is still on the rise as well. Those two are going to be great together if they trade Dame. And who are some of the other free agents they got? Yeah, Matisse Thybulle, you can re-sign him. Cam Reddish is one that is interesting because You know, we know about Cam Reddish, and in his increased minutes, I think he got increased minutes, you know, from going to the Knicks to the Blazers. He was like solid, so I don't think they want to give up on him yet. I would like to see them re-sign him, but besides that, trade Dame, man. Please rid us of this consistent just mediocrity for the Blazers, and they can get they basically fast track their rebuild. So this is the final piece, and execute the rebuild. Please trade Damian Lillard.
Man, oh man, Dame Lillard's trolling the Miami Heat right now. He's trolling us. He goes on IG Live. The DJ wants to play a song, son about Miami, this and that, whatever. Then he wants to go. Then he wants to be on an interview, talk about. They ask him what team you would want to go to. Oh, Bam's my dog. Of course, Miami. This and that, bro. Damian Lillard, bro. I'm sick and tired of you, bro. Like, I'm sick and tired of this dude. The only reason why the Portland Trailblazers haven't traded him is because of him. Like, it's that. It's at the end of the day. He's not requesting the trade. You're not just going to trade your superstar player. They're way too loyal to him. They're just not going to do that. They think they can still stay competitive. Guys, the last time that they made it to the Western Conference Finals where they played the Golden State Warriors, they got swept. They didn't win one game, I believe was in 2018. We're heading into the 2023-2024 season. They have yet to been back at that position since. Then you got Grant, who, to me, I'm not a big fan of him. We seen him on a winning team, didn't really do too much. Now he's on the Portland Trail Blazers. He wanted to go to the Pistons. You know why? Because he gets a bunch of shot attempts. He looks good. But I just don't think he's going to help this team win. I let this dude walk or try to find a trade, try to get this dude out of Portland. I just don't think he's going to help them win at all. This roster is garbage. They do got some nice young pieces. I do like what I've seen from Shaedon Sharpe. You have him to 2027. Obviously, Ant Simons, I think they should just go with that. Scoot Henderson, Simon, Shaedon Sharpe, that's kind of like their big three in this sense. You can get a lot of value off Dame Lillard. A lot of teams are going to be offering a lot for him, including draft capital. Start the rebuild. Get the players that they got to get rid of is Nurkic, Grant. You can keep Cam Reddish and Thibault if you really want to. Cool, whatnot. I'm not too big fans of them and stuff like that. But then when you just continue to go down this roster, they're just a bunch of nobodies. Like, this team is not going nowhere. And even if you want to make a move, a big trade to help this team go to the NBA Finals, because that's what they want, who are they going to trade for? You trade for Paul George, you ain't winning. You trade for Kawhi Leonard, he's not playing on the court. LeBron James is aging. So there's no way you trade for Pascal, you're not winning. It doesn't matter who you trade for at this point. You're not winning nothing.
I kind of like the idea of Pascal. And
they ain't winning shit with Pascal. Get the fuck out of here, bro. It's not happening, bro. They're not. I don't get, bro. They're not winning with no one. It's time to trade Dame, and it's Dame's fault. That's it. He's not. He's saying, I'm going to see what they're going to do this. What are they going to do? They're going to make mediocre moves once again. They're going to bring in players like a Cam Reddish and a Thibault. What the fuck are they going to do? You brought in your head coach in Chauncey Billups, who Dame wanted. And to be honest with you guys, I don't even think he's that great of a head coach. Like, bro, this team is doomed. Like, yeah, you got Scoot. That's a bright spot. You got Simons, and Simons plays better when Dame's not playing. He gets more shot attempts, obviously. He's a shooter out there. You know what I see Dame and Simons? Of another repeat of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. That's exactly what the fuck I see with that group. Literally, they're just a repeat of that old team they had before. They're not going nowhere. Damian Lillard, you're a fucking troll. You like to troll the internet. You like, bro, I'm sick and tired of this boy, bro. He's a little boy to me now, bro.
Man, that's crazy.
Dame,
you wouldn't be saying that when you got that Shams notification. But
of course.
Good look, man. I've been saying it for some time now. Dame, at this point, he's only got to blame himself. Like, he can only blame himself at this point. As a superstar, right? Like, you come up, you start to do good for your team. You're the number one option. You're doing all this and that, and then you have to realize that at a certain point, the organization in the front office has to meet you halfway and help you become a champion. And if you if the organization can't do that, then I don't care how loyal you are. I don't care what your roots are about. I don't care if you're from Oakland or if you're from Canada. It doesn't matter where you're from. Like, stop acting like this whole loyalty team. Like, this isn't the NBA back in like to 2000s. Back in the 2000s, it was, oh, I'm loyal to my team that drafted me. I'm loyal to my team that drafted me. No, it's about winning. At least in my opinion, it's about winning. I wouldn't say, go ring hopping at a point, but I'm just saying, like, you have to know to draw the line of like, all right, like, I'm going to do everything I can to win in my organization, the team that drafted me, and do right by them, but they have to do right by me as well. This is not a one-way street. So that's what I mean to say. And I think Dame's just been living in this one-way street where he's just insanely loyal to them. Looks like a relationship where like Portland just keeps cheating on Dame, and Dame just keeps coming back over and over and over, no matter what happens. That's
we're gonna make this relationship work. I'm not running from the grind.
That's what it looks like. It looks like Dame is set on the relationship working no matter what happens. So but at this point you can't blame anybody else but Dame. And like I said, when he becomes a Reggie Miller player, and years down the line, when like my kids look at talk about Dame Lillard, they're gonna really honestly give him no respect and no credit like how he deserves. And then as far as the rebuild, Trent, I think you worded it great. You get rid of Dame, you can get a lot of pieces back from him. Get rid of Yusuf Nurkic, get a lot of pieces back from him. I'm not as much of a hater on Jeremy Grant as much as Trent is. Think he could somewhat work, but I think the two biggest pieces you get rid of is Nurk and Dame, because you get a lot back for them, and then you just go you rebuild with the core that you have of Scoot. You just drafted Anthony Simons. You have Shaedon Sharpe. Boy, you throw him so many lobs, it's crazy. But yeah, man. I mean, the Blazers, I hope they finally make the right decision. No joke, for the last like maybe 10 years now, I've just been watching them make wrong decision after wrong decision after wrong decision after wrong decision. So you would hope that they could at least, do right by Dame and make a right decision for their organization. Because even if Dame's on this team, and this is the last point I'll make, and TB, I know you'll feel me on this one. If Dame's on this team, this will kind of remind me of the Lakers when they were kind of just like dragging out Kobe's career, where you're just like, oh, we're not going to, do wrong by you. You're so good to us. But with you on this team, we're not competitive. With you and all these young guys, we're just not competitive. And I think that's exactly where Portland is right now. So get rid of Dame.
So I feel like I'm kind of maybe alone in the group, in the sense of, I think for the organization, it makes the most sense to trade Dame, which I think everyone agrees with that, mainly because, they're not going to win a championship next year no matter what they do. I even talked about when we did the draft stream, like where they really messed up, and maybe they could have traded a lot of their pieces, kept Dame, and put together like a big three, but they kind of messed it up because like they traded away like CJ McCollum and Larry Nance and Covington and Powell, like 4 players that could be quality players in any team. Of course, like Covington doesn't really play much on the Clippers, but I still think he's a quality player when he gets the opportunity. Like that's 4 guys right there that could be useful in any team, any contender. And basically the only thing you have to show for it now is Matisse Thybulle. So like, and I would even argue he's not even better than half of those guys. And I would argue he's probably not better than 3 of them at least. So when you think about it like that, that definitely puts you like down a spot. So I don't know how they can rebound from that, but at the same time, I think what I said, I think I'm alone in the group, is I don't think Dame, and I'm not going to hold it against him. I'm not going to blame him like years down the line or disrespect him because he's like not requesting a trade. If he's comfortable there, if that's where he wants to play, that's totally fine. Now, some people are going to look at him and be like, oh, he never won a ring or whatever. I think you can also make the same argument against him if he did go somewhere, like if he went to the Nets and if he was there when Durant was there and it was like him, KD, and Harden. Let's say he was in the place of Kyrie or something like that, and he never won. Or like let's say he was on the Boston Celtics right now and he never won.
Can I please cut you off? Can I please cut you off?
Man, me too.
Wait, Trey.
Man,
let me get him first. Because I think you passionate about this. Real quick, that's fine and all. If you want to play in Portland, nobody's going to stop you to play in Portland. They paying him, obviously, so he fulfilled his contract. Everything's great between him and Portland. He loves Portland. They love him. But don't complain about the continued shitty situation that you in, and you're choosing to be a part of this situation. Come on, bro. What are we doing? You know this front office is terrible. You know they haven't surrounded you with nothing in the past. The closest you've got was nowhere near close enough. So what are we doing?
Man,
man.
look,
That's my thing. Hold up.
Go
That's
ahead.
my thing. That's my thing. If he's not complaining and he's just shutting his mouth up, whatever, just going through it, then we won't care. I don't think we will care too much. We'll probably say, yeah, he still needs to get traded. But it's the fact that he's complaining about it. When you're complaining about
he
it,
still
bro,
wants to compete though.
they're not gonna compete in fucking Portland. Portland is dog shit, my nigga.
That's not
I
what he's
know,
saying.
I
What
know.
he's saying is it's not really complaining. People are asking him, "What do you want to do?" If I say of course I want to compete. It doesn't matter what Portland is or
What has the
isn't
front
doing.
office do to him though? What have they done? What's their
He's
best
not
players?
complaining. That's our point.
They've
He's
done all
not
the wrong
bitching.
things.
People are asking him questions about it, and he answers.
And he's doing that
What
for
else
a
is-
reason. He's
Now-
doing that for
What
nigga,
else
this
is he
video
gonna
for a
say?
reason.
Now
But
look,
he's
look,
doing
look.
it
I
so that
agree.
the front office can
I
actually make the moves to try and help them get better. Now they can't really. I don't think they can anymore because I already told you they traded 4 guys that are solid players for a guy that you could argue is worse than all of them in Matisse Thybulle. I know. Was it Jay? You said you're high on Matisse Thybulle. Okay, I'm personally not taking him over any of those 4 players on my team if I'm a contender. You guys might disagree, but that's just me. So that's where they really messed up, and now they probably can't. I think he's just saying that simply so they'll make a move, see what they can do. People have done this before. Remember, Kobe Bryant said, I'm requesting a trade. I'm getting out of there. And what did they do? They got Pau Gasol, and they traded 7 players that all of them were garbage. Now, maybe it seems like an unrealistic trade that happened at the time. It happened. It's so be it. It resulted in championships. I'm not saying a trade like that would result in a championship in Portland. But what I am saying is he's going to see what happens and see where it goes from there. And if he's not content with that, then maybe he'll make a decision. If he doesn't, then so be it. It's still his decision. It's his career. He wants to dictate his career.
Absolutely. He wants to dictate his career and everything. And by all means, you live in America, freedom. Yes, great, all of that. All we're saying and all I'm saying has nothing to do with I think what you and Trent and TB were talking about. Yes, he's not complaining. He's just answering questions that the media is asking him. But what I'm saying is it is absolutely 100% his fault when he goes out and says that to the media, or whether he's complaining or whether he's asked a question, he goes out, says the blueprint, says what he wants to do, and they still don't do it. Then the ball goes back on Damian Lillard's court, right? Because the Damian has the ball, puts the ball in the organization.
He also can't trade himself too. But go ahead.
He can ask for a trade.
You're right. But he can request.
But he's
He
not
can
going to
say
do that.
the,
He's
he
not
can
that
say
person.
the word, but just because he says I want to trade, Portland still have to run a basketball team at the end of the day.
Think about it
So
like
if
this.
they
Kevin Durant
don't
requested a trade this past summer. They didn't trade him till literally the deadline, only after Kyrie Irving requested a trade.
Totally agree. But brother, how long has it been? It's been
been
years. It's been years with this.
But
That's
I'm telling you in another situation where Joe Tsai had all the leverage in that situation.
I'm not talking about Joe Tsai. Where I'm talking about Portland.
I'm just telling you that he could say, I want to trade. At the end of the day, if they don't trade him, they don't trade him.
That's fine. But what I'm telling you is there's a lot of other ways that you could go about this. And as Damian Lillard, as the star, not only should Portland do right by him, and even if they don't do right by him, you could go ahead and go the drama queen route and go James Harden, to where you stop showing up, to where all this is a problem.
To where now he's public enemy number one.
Either way, we're going to
but what I'm
saying,
you can't have it either way.
Either way, someone's going to talk shit no matter what.
It's on. Yeah, of course. Yeah, people are going to have an opinion no matter what. All I'm saying is my side is that you can only blame him. If his career goes down ringless, you can only blame him because he did what he had to do. He put up 50% of what he had to do. The organization did not meet him in the middle. And then after the organization does not meet him in the middle, it is now his responsibility to find a way out, whether it be through free agency. You acting like he has to re-sign in free agency. He's been a free agent.
But people don't talk about other people like George Gervin or Steve Nash.
No one gives a fuck. We're talking about Dame, nigga.
I'm talking about players that don't have a ring.
He's had the
I'm
option.
answering
Listen,
the question where John said years down the line, if he doesn't win a ring, if he doesn't accept this option and goes to like find a way to win a championship, people are just going to disrespect him for years to come. But there's people that have never won a championship, dude.
that gets disrespected years to come. Garrett, how great? Listen to this. I'm gonna put your whole debate to bed right now. Ask a OG how great Reggie Miller was. Go ahead, ask a OG how great Reggie Miller was.
They're gonna say he was one of the
They was
best
great.
shooters ever.
They're gonna say
He was the next killer.
exactly. Thank you. Right, exactly. Ask a OG.
Yeah.
The OG
You want me to be honest?
Right. Am I gonna finish my point? Am I gonna finish my point?
But John,
it was on
the
Garrett,
thing,
and I never even got one.
That's great.
I'll let you go here
Look,
after stuff.
This is all I'm saying.
The thing is, though, John,
OG will tell you how great.
Let's say
Reggie
20
Miller
years
is,
from now.
but 20 years down the line, and kids nowadays will tell you Reggie Miller was not that guy, and that's all I'm saying. That's exactly what will happen with Damian Lillard.
NBA 75.
But John, you couldn't have said
like,
this
not
20
really.
years ago, and 20 years from now, this could be a whole different discussion.
Attic.
If
That's
he wins a
exactly
ring,
what I'm
if he
getting
wins a ring, this will be a whole different
No,
discussion.
even if he didn't win a ring, I'm saying
Attic,
20 years
you know how
ago
much
from now, people weren't talking about Reggie Miller or whoever it may be. If it was George Gervin or whoever that didn't win a championship in that light. But 20 years from now, we could be having the same arguments like that as we did in 2000. You don't know.
Bro, all I'm telling you is my whole point is this: Damian Lillard, if he does, it's on him. It's on him if he doesn't win a ring. That's it. All I'm saying, it's on him if he doesn't win a ring because he's had the opportunity to do it and he hasn't stepped up to the plate and did what he needed to do, man. That's all I'm saying.
Well, also,
and whether you like it or not,
Okay, we need to jump off this. Trent, what do you got?
Like it or not, he will be reminded as a Reggie Miller if he goes down the line. It makes a lot of sense.
True.
Makes great sense.
Please listen. What I do want to say is, listen, Dame Lillard's the one that's signing contract extensions every single
That's what
time.
I'm trying to tell you.
He's the one that's signing the contract extensions, even though he knows his team is bad, right?
Come on.
And Trill, I'm gonna let you go. You haven't spoke yet. I want to hear what you got to say. But he's the one that gets the fucking pen, goes in the office and says, I see this roster. Fuck it. I'm gonna sign a 2-year deal right now. And then
he also
comes out
sees
there,
that $60 million a year.
Yeah, and then he takes half the fucking cap, right? Not only does he that cool, he gets his money, whatever, right? But not only that, then the next year he goes, this roster's not good enough. You knew the roster wasn't good enough. All he added was grants.
You know, I absolutely hate that I'm gonna be the only one that's genuinely honest about this Dame situation.
What are you talking about, bro?
Hold on.
No, I'm being
Go crazy.
Now let him talk.
Y'all are applying your personal feelings to where you want to see Dame playing and what you want to see him doing. We all want to see him playing at a championship level. We all want to see him on a contender. We all understand this, and we all know he is the second best shooter in the league right now behind Stephen Curry. We all get all these things. We're applying that personal feeling of wanting to see him at the highest level to the fact that he needs to force his way out. When in reality, if he did that before we started talking about he needs to force his way out, because to be honest, he's probably 3-4 years too late. And if he is 3-4 years too late, that's about year 7-ish, 7-8-ish. That's when KD left. And when I understand KD left to the team that directly beat him.
It's not the same.
Same totally
thing with
different,
LeBron.
Totally different.
Same thing with LeBron. LeBron had a bullshit team for years.
Much similar
when
to
he
LeBron's
left,
situation.
He got killed. He got killed, point blank, period. So what I'm saying is, because I remember, Mo, you said this specifically a couple days ago. You think it's 2 or 3 years too late for Dame. He should have been left. And when you said that, unfortunately, we had to go, but I went and looked at his career, and it was year 7, the same exact year most of these players that we killed today left their team to go to another team that was clearly a winning move. We killed those players. We killed them. So what I'm saying is y'all are applying personal feeling to what you want for Dame, because had he left before anybody said anything, before anybody was like, oh, we're tired of you saying you want to win, you want to compete, whatever. Had he done that, y'all would be killing him right now. That's my only issue.
And that's a great point.
And
that's a great point. And that's a great point, TV. But I just want to say, you said it's 2-3 years too late, right? So that means that he's had 2 to 3 years to go and make this decision and leave. So all you're doing is telling me that he made that decision
the same
for 10
point.
plus
But
years.
I just said my feeling is he should have been left.
Bad brother. I'm listening, TB.
I told you the same exact point. I told you
bro.
the same exact point.
But
It's just,
what
it's just
I'm
that you're like,
saying is,
oh no. It's in the blame.
personally, yes, I feel like it's 2 to 3 years too late, and I wouldn't have killed him if he left during that time. However, I forget who I was talking to, but I was like, we really just need to see Dame on a winning team, a contending team, playing in the Western Conference Finals on a team that actually looks like they have a chance to make the finals. And it clicked to me. The reason we want Dame gone is because we want to see him at this level. It's nothing else other than that. There's no other way to put it.
I mean, I want
Let the record show. I said that the Blazers basically already done with their rebuild. If they trade Dame, they instantly done with their rebuild. They got their rebuild pieces already. So that's also a benefit that the team has, that they just
we all agree they're not going to contend in Portland. We know that. I'm just telling you what I think he thinks, what I think he feels.
I'm gonna be honest
to that
with you.
point, real quick. To that point, Mo, that's another thing. We're talking about trade Dame. We still got to realize if Portland don't like what they're getting in return, I'm not making that trade. I'm not making a trade that I don't see puts us in a position to recoup or to come back from losing Dame. So above all else, they could be talking. They could be one of those teams like the Raptors where nothing gets out and they are shopping Dame. That could be happening, and they don't have anything they like. And that's another thing. Like, we're telling Dame to go tell them I want a trade. It's not that easy because they still got to look out for them at the end of the day, no matter how loyal they are to Dame.
Sid, I got 2 points now. I have 2 points to say. Portland literally came out and said, well, they didn't come out and said, but these could be fake reports, whatever. They're waiting on Dame to ask for the trade. They want him to ask for the trade. And Dame also said, I'm going to see what you going to do for me. And we all know they ain't going to do shit for him. They going to bring in a player. Like, I can't, bro, this free agency is so dog shit, bro. I don't even know who they can possibly bring in to improve this roster. A trade, who they going to bring in? What top talent can they possibly bring in this year or any year that can help them win a championship right now?
That's a free agent this year. No clue that they could trade for. It's a few of them, but you'd be trading for them.
They just need to rebuild. That's their direction.
Everything y'all are saying, nothing changes what I said.
But also, too, hold up, because I want to get to that point. What I want to say, the crazy thing is,
you said, Garrett.
Both of your points about Garrett, and TB, bro, no matter what, the media's going to be talking. Dame don't give a fuck, and no one else gives a fuck. They going to talk about this. They going to talk about this. Who gives a fuck, bro? Like, the reason why KD got bashed so much is we already know he joined a team that beat him, bro.
Come on,
no,
bro.
I'm gonna be honest with you,
That's
bro.
so different.
Thing is, dude, narratives change over time. So you might think that. So over time, if people saw, he didn't win a ring, but at the very least, he was on the Portland Trailblazers the whole time. It's not like he was ring hopping like these other dudes. And even to an extent, the last several years, like, I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but I've noticed it at least a little bit. Bro, the narrative, even with, and this is just 7 years ago, the narrative with Kevin Durant joining the Warriors is not nearly as like crazy now as it was then. And that might be the craziest move we've seen in the modern era.
Can I tell you something?
Hey, can I be saying this years down the line the way they were in 2016?
I just want to say something real quick. And I know Garrett's not going to agree with this, but man, brother, you're gonna have to understand that this is a fact, whether you like it or not. You know why the narrative has changed? And this is kind of also responding to TB's point. All of this started after LeBron made that first move and went from a team that was dog shit, that was not putting him in the position to win. And then he went to Miami. And then I guess you could say the Celtics started the super team era with the KG, Ray Allen, and PG and all that. But LeBron was the first time that he made that move and was like the sacrificial lamb. And now ever since the NBA, go ahead and look back if you want. Ever since that year in the NBA, like more and more, it's been more about like, okay, it's about player empowerment. Oh, okay. If the organization
enough credit for that, by the way.
Exactly, bro.
There's another extreme.
How do we say LeBron though? How do we say LeBron when he was a free agent though? That's what I don't understand.
Why do we
talking
say
about-
LeBron? He was
Dame
a
has
free
had
agent.
opportunities
he
become
was a
a
free
free
agent. You're right. Trill.
He waited
R.
it
telling
out.
Dame to
Exactly.
force
And
himself
Dame,
out.
no,
Those are
no,
two
no, no.
different things.
Bro, how
No,
many
we're
times
not
have I said
saying
on here
Dame
that Dame
forced
has
himself out.
resigned? Dame has resigned.
He's
so
had
many-
had
Dame
opportunities to
has
become a
resigned.
free agent.
He
in
has
the league.
been a
And then
re-
y'all are saying now what? Trade him. Y'all just said this for
But
35
That's not
minutes.
forcing.
part of
That's
my
not. That's not forcing his way out.
Also
If
part
he
of my
asks for a
argument.
trade's going to
Last
be
time
made.
he
This
signed
man
in
just said go the
2021,
diva route.
where could he
This
have
man
gone
just said
that
go
was
the diva
able to
route.
sign him?
Who said that?
I just what are you?
I'm
saying
the
He
other
said
thing
he could go
too.
the
TB,
diva
part of
route
my
and do
argument.
James Harden. What is that? That's not forcing your way
TB,
out.
TB, part of my argument in the beginning was he had the chance to not re-sign there, and he re-signed there. That's
But what
part
are
of
we
my
talking
argument.
about now?
Let's wrap.
That
let's
was
wrap
part of
this
the
up. We're not
argument.
making.
That was part of
we're
the
not making
argument.
any ground. We're not making any ground. Also, just side note. I know I'm 40 minutes late, but Jay, I agree with Mo. Justice Winslow is absolutely dog shit.
You go back to that shit, bro. Yeah, let's wrap this up.
Yeah,
we definitely need to wrap this up because needless to
Ron
say,
James
we have
league
some
dog, man.
opinions about Damian Lillard in here, and
Hey, trade Dame.
ultimately he controls their offseason because either they rebuild or they're just. Hey, we talked about Jeremy Grant walking. We talked about them and their young pieces. If Dame's still here, they're going to try and put a competitive roster around him.
12 seed.
And that's just the reality of it. But moving on from the Trailblazers, we got to talk about a team who actually was not in the postseason last year, but actually has some upside, and that's the Orlando Magic, a team that had 2 lottery selections on draft night a couple of nights ago and doesn't really have much in the way of free agents to deal with this summer. The decisions for them is going to come at the guard position with Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony being extension eligible. Of course, they just drafted a couple of guys who can play the 2 a couple of nights ago. I'll start with you here, Mo. What are you thinking about Orlando heading into the summer? And most specifically, because that's the primary concern for them, what do you see about their guard situation heading into the summer?
All right. So kind of touched on this in the draft stream. Didn't expect them to pick a guard with I forget. I'm terrible at drafts. What
Pick
they had
6.
the 10th pick.
Pick 6 and pick 11.
Damn, that was high. Oh my goodness. They took a guard super high. Definitely wasn't expecting that, especially when we had talented wings on the board still, but he slid and whatever. They got to figure out their guard situation. Do they want to continue with Markelle Fultz and his development? Do they want to go the Jalen Suggs route? Do they want to go the Cole Anthony route? They most likely what they do is continue on with Markelle Fultz because he has been pretty damn good for them. He's jumped past both of their other guards. And as far as them, the other 2, it doesn't really. I don't think it matters too much what decision you make with them. In my opinion, you could probably get rid of both of them and keep your 6th pick or whatever. Some of the other free agents that they have, Mo Wagner, I would like to see them go return with Mo Wagner. He's pretty damn good. Goga I don't know his name, so I'm not even gonna try it. Michael Carter Williams, that's his name. Goodbye. Admiral Schofield, goodbye. And somebody that's also extension eligible, Jonathan Isaac. I don't know if they're still gonna hold out hope that Jonathan Isaac can fully bounce back from the injury and show that potential that he absolutely probably still has. I say that a lot, absolutely probably. But if they do, that's an avenue they could go. I wouldn't put it past them to do so, honestly, because they still are years away from contention, and maybe they want to give him another chance to stay healthy and impact the team as well. I wouldn't be opposed to them doing that. That's probably also what they're going to do. So yeah, Orlando, interesting team. Don't really see the point in them drafting that guard at 6, but they did. So hopefully that means that they're going to make a decision on their future. And yeah, I like Markelle Fultz, so he should be a part of this team's future.
Hey Mo, you know what? I like Markelle Fultz too, and I was a little surprised when they took a guard at the 6th pick. You guys know how I feel about Anthony Black. I made a video about it, said it on the draft stream. Anthony Black is a very unique player, great player, tall guard, defensive guard, very good at switching. He could cover all bases. I would like him. not on the Orlando Magic, though. I don't understand. I'm really upset because I really thought the Orlando Magic needed this draft to really catapult themselves into real playoff contention. But they failed. They failed. They took Anthony Black. You have Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, and Jalen Suggs, a very good trio of productive guards. And I really didn't understand that. And taking Jet Howard at 11th, way too high, especially when he was projected to get taken somewhere in the 20s. I don't get it. I'm really frustrated on that part when it comes to the Orlando Magic. But this season is going to be very interesting. And unfortunately, because they picked Anthony Black so high, you now have to wait I would say until the end of the upcoming season to see what you want to do with both Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony, as they're only under contract for one more year. Maybe you want to let one go or trade one and put Anthony Black in that position. But guess what? The Orlando Magic are a poor 3-point shooting team. If they were to take a guard at the 6th pick, get somebody that can shoot. Get somebody that can stretch the floor. Because at the end of the day, the ball is going to be in either Markelle Fultz's hand, it's going to be in Franz Wagner's hand, it's going to be in Paolo Banchero's hands. You're going to have Anthony Black run the offense, playmate, when Paolo Banchero's a 29% three-point shooter. Markelle Fultz at 31%. It really doesn't make sense to me. But when it comes to their free agents, like I said, I told you guys about Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony, what they need to do there. Chuma Okeke has showed that he's really not a productive NBA player yet. I don't know if you want to continue to wait and take a chance on him. I would move on from him. Jonathan Isaac is very interesting. Unfortunately, he just hasn't happened to pan out due to his constant knee injuries. And you're going to have some real decisions there. I don't know how much value he really has because he's been unable to stay on the court. Admiral Schofield, you could go as well, buddy. I don't know what to say. Michael Carter Williams. Hey, they just drafted your doppelganger, so I don't know what they do with Michael Carter Williams either. But the Orlando Magic, they have a really interesting season. I really was hoping to see them be in the playoffs or some type of playing situation this year, but because of the Anthony Black situation, I feel like two things are going to happen. Either Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony are going to play their ass off and show that they belong on this team, or they're going to fold and the chemistry is really going to dissipate and not be there because they have a guy and they have to look over their shoulder constantly at the guy that's trying to take their spot. So the Orlando Magic are going to have a very interesting 2023-2024 season.
Well, first of all, Jay, you're wrong about Anthony Black. See, like, I see kind of what you mean a little bit, just because he's a bigger guard. He's kind of in a similar. It feels like he can contribute to them in a lot of ways that Fultz already can, and he's not going to get that instant run over Fultz more than likely. He'd have to like really show it like in preseason and like training camp and stuff like that. And the odds are that's probably not going to happen. But I feel like personally, like with Anthony Black, I mean, I'm looking at their guard depth. I mean, personally for me, I've never really been too high on Jalen Suggs. So I feel like there is a possibility, there is a world where he could get traded. He has been kind of a little bit inconsistent. But I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they stagnated them, like maybe as Anthony Black, like coming off the bench, which might not be ideal. But of course, there is rumors that they're trying to trade Cole Anthony too, or see like what they can get for him. So if they started both of them, yeah, the shooting is not going to be great. Although granted, Markelle Fultz was shooting a lot better last year. And then I think he missed a couple games in the middle of the year. And then after that point, shooting went down. But for most of the year, he was shooting like 36% from three. So I went, and obviously not high volume, but if he can just continue that and shoot around 36, 37, even if it's not even high volume or anything like that, that's a huge plus. I feel like part of the things you were saying, though, against like Anthony Black being a good fit on the team is because, when he play makes, like he's not going to have many options to find like on the perimeter. And I think there's a few things with that. First of all, I think like I said, Markelle Fultz is probably going to have the ball in his hands most of the time in terms of playmaking. So I don't know if that opportunity would present itself as much as maybe you're anticipating. But at the same breath, I think part of that is also just kind of the faults of the Magic currently. And like, they're not really a great 3-point shooting team. Like, a lot of their guys, a lot of their guards are really inconsistent if you think about it from shooting from three. So, you know, maybe that's not ideal for him, not an ideal scenario for him if he wanted to play like that. But I think there's other ways he can contribute too. I mean, when you look at the Orlando Magic, though, like, they just have, I think they have enough young talent in every position personally. Like, I think that they have that. One of the biggest problems has just been, you know, staying healthy. I think they have enough veterans on their team. You know, if they still have Gary Harris this year and then they have Michael Carter-Williams this year, I mean, that could be two vets right there that provide some experience. Carter-Williams doesn't have much like playoff experience really, but Gary Harris does. So I've always been high on Gary Harris as well. So I like that, along with other guys like Fultz, you know, like Cole Anthony and Bol and obviously Paolo and Franz and stuff like that. So, and Wendell Carter, of course. Like, they have a lot of guys that, you know, it's just a matter of putting it all together. And I think the reason why I wasn't too high on Jalen Suggs is because personally for me, I mean, I don't know what you guys think. I think at least in terms of getting on the same wavelength as his players, I think Jamal Mosley is like one of the best coaches in the league in that regard. You know, like, so I think he's probably, because of that, he's going to be here for quite a while. And also because of that, it just hasn't seemed like Jalen Suggs has, you know, seen it translate on the court. You know, I wouldn't think there's like something behind the scenes that we don't know about, like with him and Mosley or anything like that. It just doesn't seem like on the court it's translated well. And there's a reason why a lot of the NBA players, even past and present, say like it's about fit. It's about getting your opportunity. So I think maybe they could trade him and like see what they can get for him. I mean, he's still pretty young. He's only like, what, 22? So like they could definitely get some value for him. And maybe the only maybe area that I would be a little concerned about is small forward, because we know Jonathan Isaac is like, I don't even know. It's as brittle as a glass bottle. Jesus. No, but yeah. So I don't know. I think that's probably the only concern I would have. I have high expectations for the Orlando Magic though next year. I think, you know, I expect this year they'll be healthy enough to go throughout the course of the regular season. And I know it's a hot take, but I know we have all free agency yet, but I'm feeling confident that they'll be a top 6 seed, and I feel like they could be the 5th seed in the East next year.
Wow.
Big hopes.
It's big.
We still got to see a lot, but that's just what I think they can definitely do it. But
Interesting potential projection.
I know Devin agrees with me.
Yeah, no, definitely some hopeful wishing, but I hear what you're saying though, brother. They could make some right moves and they could be headed in that direction. But as far as the Orlando Magic, to be honest with you, I don't have much I want to touch on. I just want to kind of talk about the fact that them drafting Anthony Black, now they have 5 like point guards, or 5 like one point guards as shooting guards. Like that's actually like really wild. So do just want to give some credit to Jay on that take, because that is, I just think that's just poor drafting in my opinion. Similar to I'm sorry, Devin, I got to bring it up, but the Toronto Raptors. You just keep drafting the same same type of player, same archetype type of player. So I just don't think that's a great idea. Anthony Black, though, I do want to give him his credit. I know Jay was hating on him. I think he's a great defender. I'm not gonna lie. I think out of this draft, he's one of the best perimeter defenders in this draft. So I think that'll be big for the Orlando Magic. And now to touch on what they should do with some of those guards, I think personally you do away with Cole Anthony. I know a lot of the guys here are more on the side of Cole Anthony and less believing in Jalen Suggs. I'm a little bit more on Jalen Suggs, not gonna lie, just because I've said this before. I just think he's the out of all the young guys, just the greatest, just pure athlete. And a lot of times that really in basketball usually just does generate, especially on the defensive end, offensive end. I think he can also put the ball down on the ground and go get a bucket for himself. And if you do away with Cole Anthony, I'm not saying this man has a lot of trade value. But I think you should try to get a big to help Wendell, because Jonathan Isaac, Garrett, I was trying to say to your point earlier, he's as brittle, or as whatever word you were saying, brittle. He's as brittle as AD. So you just never know, man. Like he can hit.
That's not. What are we doing
Come
here?
on, bro.
Come
What are we
on,
doing
man.
here, bro?
Actually, the AD looks like Superman compared to him.
Literally,
Come
like,
on.
what are we doing here?
So
That's
look,
disrespectful. Oh
that is
my.
disrespectful. But as
He's on watch as a fraudulent Laker fan. He's on notice.
come
He looks
on,
like
That's
2010
crazy.
Anyway.
Yao Ming, and that's
Look,
my
man.
guy.
Look, this is all I'll say. You're gonna have to get another real big to help Wendell, because Jonathan Isaac was a potential defensive player of the year candidate at least in the 2020 year. And I mean, besides that, figure out the point guard situation.
Honestly, I'm high on the Orlando Magic too. So this year they were 34-48, I believe. Yeah, 34-48, 13th seed.
Yuck.
Fun fact. Okay, that's cool. Fun fact, that's their best record for total wins since 2018-2019, where that team had 42 wins, and that roster had Vujic and Aaron Gordon. So let's
Didn't
not
that
say
team make the playoffs?
So let's not say yuck. I said
They made
total
it
wins.
twice actually, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I said total wins. Total wins.
I know. I was just
Yeah,
responding
yeah,
to Mo.
So that was their best roster with 42 wins. This is not even their full potential, full roster at helm, and they already have 34 wins, and they're just only going to get better. I'm very high on Paulo Banchero, even though I think he needs to become a better shooter. He is 6'10", and he tends to struggle with that. His three-point percentage is around 30%, but I do want to say his last 10 games, I believe, it was about 47%, 45% from the field. So he is improving with that, and I think he's just going to become a really, really good player. And then another thing with Jalen Suggs, we got to move on from this dude. Going at John real quick about trading Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony is going to have the more value because Jalen Suggs is just can't hit. He can't. The ball can be the ocean. He still can't hit the hoop. Like he just can't shoot. I don't care if you're an athlete. I don't care how athletic you are. If you can't shoot on the court and you can't be a valuable asset on the offensive end, why do I have you on my roster? When you look at Cole Anthony, that dude as a six man is he's a solid dude that's shooting 51% from the field and 43%. 45% from the field and 37% from the three-point line, averaging 13 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. I'll take that any day coming off the bench. So, yeah, who has the better value? Cole Anthony has the better value. But for Jalen Suggs, I can't – I'm not a big fan of Jalen Suggs. Maybe I'll give him time. You know me, I don't really give these young dudes any time and stuff like that. But his first season shooting 36% from the field, that is awful. 21% from the three-point line. Like, are we playing in like the backyard and we just chucking up shots? Like, yeah, he did improve the next season where he went up 41% and his three-point percentage went to 32. But he needs to have an offensive game, because if he doesn't have an offensive game, and you could be the good defender, you can look at players like Thibault and stuff like that, who's a really good defender. But guess what? He gets played off the court because he can't hit shots in the possessions that matter at most in the postseason. Like Davion Mitchell, great example. He's a pit bull, but guess what he has done? He's improved his jumper and has played really, really good basketball in the postseason and for the Sacramento Kings. So let's get rid of this Jalen Suggs dude. And then for Markelle Fultz, let's not forget, this dude was a former #1 pick in 2017. This was his best year for every statistical stat that you can think of. Minutes, games. He played 60 games played. 14 points, shooting 51% from the field and 31% from three, 4 rebounds, and 5.7 assists, averaging 1.4 steals. That's all a career high for Markelle Fultz, bro. The dude is only 25 years old. He is our point guard for this team. He is going to be there with Paulo Banchero at the end of the day, and that's who we're keeping over anybody. I don't care what anybody says, because he's going to continue to get better. If he stays healthy, the main problem with him in Philly, we all know it was his shoulder. He couldn't shoot, and Philly, outside of a few people, Philly just fumbles their picks. Going to Jaleel, Nerlens Noel, like Joel
Ben
was
Simmons.
good. Ben Simmons was good during the stretch. Let's not act like he wasn't. He was good in Philly until like near the end. Right? So like Markelle Fultz is a dude, and he's finally getting the time, and he's finally have a coach that believes in him, and that is going to keep developing in this dude. So I really like him. And then going on to Jonathan Isaac, bro. The best I can do for Jonathan Isaac is sign up for a 1-year deal. Outside of that, I'm not signing him to no long-term deal. The last time that we seen him play on a court was a few years ago. I believe it was in 2019, 2020. He comes back again, plays 11 games. What does he do? He gets injured. Like I'm not dealing with a player that can't stay on the court. Yes, he's a good defender. When he's out there, he's one of the best perimeter. He could be a top perimeter defender in the NBA. He does so much stuff, but he's just not out there. And missing 3 years, come on, man. It's just not enough for me. So I'm really high on this Orlando Magic's team. I like what they got. Hopefully Anthony Black proves Jay wrong. And when he does, we're going to come back to this stream. We're going to come back to his video, and we're going to see what's up, man. But the Orlando Magic, I wouldn't say they're a top 6 seed, but I could definitely see them being in a top 10, being in a playoff conversation, like a play-in, just like the Charlotte Hornets was a few years ago. So shout out to Orlando Magic, man. I'm really big on them. And one more thing, Markelle Fultz is not only improving on the offense end, he's improving on the defense end as being a top defender. So I'm really high on this team right now.
Yeah, so I think you drafting Anthony Black, they're done with Jalen Suggs. Off top, I think that's already that's what you're doing that move for. And I think Jet Howard, I think you're trying to see what you get out of Cole Anthony this year. To Trent's point, I do agree Cole Anthony is a great 6-man. He's only going to get better. He ended the year on a high note if you were watching Orlando basketball towards the end of the year. And he's actually shown to be a player that, like, he's more formidable than he was earlier. With regard to Jonathan Isaac, I don't even know if I want to bring him in for another year, because to me, I've already seen you're not going to be healthy. I'm going to be honest, though. Start big talking him, saying he got bigger, bulkier, whatever you can. Play that media game and fleece a team with him. I think a team will bite. I think a team will take that. And I think that's something you can do. You know, if you're going to move Jalen Suggs as well, you could throw him in that package as well and probably get something back that helps you and your team. But that Anthony Black draft, I think picking him, that automatically tells you at least one of these guards, they're gone. They're off the team. Do not bring back MCW. Mo Wagner, got to bring him back. Admiral, you're out of there, buddy. We all said that. I don't even know. I think he knows he doesn't have a job come October. So with that being said, like, this team has some things going well for them. This team, I know they could win some games. Paolo Banchero showed us that he's probably the most NBA ready of the rookies from last year. And I think this second season, he'll help this team win a couple more games to at least be in that play-in talk. I don't know if they'll be quite in playoff talks, but I do think they'll be in the play-in kind of race. They might be one of those teams that, because they're young, because they don't have the experience, they might drop off towards the end. But I do think they're going to be a team that's in the thick of that race regardless. At this point, I said it before, this is a year for Orlando to evaluate, figure out, you know, what you have in your guard position, because for the most part, your front court with regard to, you know, Paolo Banchero and stuff, you have your guy, so to speak. Markelle Fultz, as you guys said, he's played well. He's been better than what he was in the past, and he's only going to get better, especially because that jump shot issue that was going on in Philly, as we all know, that was an injury. And with injuries, especially when you're playing, it's getting better. He's going to get more comfortable shooting the ball. So, like you guys said, he's your starter going forward. Chuma Okeke, or KK, I'm not sure how you say it. He hasn't shown that he could be efficient. He hasn't shown to be an NBA kind of guy. But I'm, unlike some people on here, I feel like you kind of let some players marinate a little bit. I've seen too often, and I probably feel this way because Lakers fans, we always trade our young players, and they normally end up being good. But regardless, I don't know if you try to move him quite yet, still figure out if he could develop into something that maybe be a rotational piece or something of that nature. But overall, Orlando has a good foundation moving forward. It just depends on, you know, one or two moves going forward to see where they go and what direction they actually go moving forward.
Now, let me ask you this question real quick, right? Franz Wagner, we didn't really talk about him too much, but that dude's a hooper. When we go back to the 2021 NBA draft class, outside of Cade, who's the second best player in that class?
You said 21?
Yep, that's the class he got drafted. You got Jalen Green, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, Jalen Suggs, Josh Giddey, Kaminga. Those are the picks before him.
You
I'd
said
take
who's the second best player?
I'd take Mobley over him,
Probably
but then
Mobley.
probably Franz.
Yeah. That
Wait, over who?
I might take
Who-
Franz
sorry.
over Mobley.
That's
I'm
fair.
I wouldn't.
the thing where I was
What
going
about
was-
Josh Giddey?
He's
Any
after
thoughts?
those
He
two
would-
for me.
he-
Well,
Probably
see,
like
okay,
five.
if I'm going back to 2021, I'm gonna be completely honest. I would have probably gone Scotty if I'm going back to 2021. But if I'm, of course, right now to the as we sit here, Franz is probably number 2. But hindsight's always 2020, so I don't really.
I mean, Josh
I don't
Giddey puts
know.
up a great challenge right there at that spot.
No, for sure. But either way, it still goes back to hindsight's 2020. Like in the moment, I would have gone Scotty Barnes. That's just what it is.
100%.
But and just talking in terms of Franz and Scotty, but like if you're back in 2021, I think maybe you go probably you go Evan Mobley over Jalen Green, and then the rest is pretty accurate with what regard to what I remember as how these guys were touted and where the mock drafts and stuff like that were. But as we stand, Franz Wagner, he's depending on what I have on my team, he's one of those second, third, or fourth guys that I would choose behind Cade.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd take Cam Thomas. That's my guy.
His brother,
Bro,
what?
I would
Whoa.
take Alperen Şengün over Cam Thomas if we're doing a redraft of that.
Yeah, for real.
He's better. He's definitely
100%.
we got to
Alfie is that dude.
We got to do a
Just-
redraft.
We'll get to a redraft this summer for sure. But I got a few things I want to comment on that were discussed earlier. I'm going to start from the top. Not that it's a big comment, but when Mo tried to and then decided to not attempt Skoga Bataza's name, I think he's a guy they probably look to bring back.
Yeah.
He's
I forgot
not
to mention
anything amazing, but his improvements last year from borderline unplayable center to solid backup big was nice to see, and he's someone that Orlando could look at. They might opt to take his team option over bringing back Mo Wagner. To Jay, your point about Anthony Black, we know you're not very high on him, but I think Steph mentioned it. I think that's just a direct replacement for Jalen Suggs at this point. Great on the defensive end, and they're just hoping that he's going to be better offensively than Suggs. And at this point, from what we've seen so far, that's not a lot to expect. So I think that's relatively safe there. The biggest thing I noticed from what they're building and the Anthony Black selection just reinforces it is we talked about the fact they might not have a ton of shooting, but they're looking to be solid on the defensive end primarily. Markelle Fultz a great defender. Anthony Black's a great defender. Gary Harris is a solid defender at times. Wendell Carter Jr. is a really good defender. Franz Wagner is a good defender. They have a lot of really good defensive pieces on this team right now. I think they have really good defensive upside as they continue to move forward, which for a young team is very rare to say. That's normally something that lags behind and gets picked up later down the line. But we can already see where the defensive pieces are right now for them. They have a lot of good length on this team. When you look at Wendell and Paolo and Franz, I think they have enough there that's where they're building on. Now they need to work on that shooting. And part of that is why I think Cole Anthony is the guy they keep. When you're looking at, do you keep him? Do you keep Jalen Suggs? They don't have enough shooting on this team. And from the guard spot, they probably lack a little bit of shot creation. Of course, they have it on the wing. But if you want shot creation from the guard spot, Cole Anthony is that guy right now. I think he's certainly a guy you keep around as a sixth man, like you guys alluded to. And from there, I think it was you, John, he mentioned having this many guards on your team is a sign of poor drafting and compared it to the Raptors. That's very generous to compare them to the Raptors and honestly giving our Raptors too much credit because we've had this for a long time and continue to stick with it. Orlando are just now getting in this situation and now have the option within the next 6 to 8 months to decide we're picking 2 or 3 of these guys and are able to get some more assets for a Jalen Suggs or for a Gary Harris and move off of these guys before they become free agents and not have it be a problem long term. So I'm more than fine with them having a ton of guards right now. It's what they do in the next 8 months that makes it important. Can they go and trade for a good bench wing, which is more of a primary need? Or do they trade for another pick down the line that then gets packaged in a trade further on or gets them a pick that they end up drafting a depth wing with? That's more of a concern to me at this point than the fact that they have 5 guards that they probably want to play day one if they all are all on the roster. So that's the most important thing for them is this offseason. We've talked about it for the majority of this portion of the stream for a reason. And that's where their next step is going to be made or broken is can they move off of these assets now that they've done such a good job of acquiring talent? Can they make that next step to start to retool some of those pieces into what they need as they push into the postseason? And like Garrett said, top 6 seed, I don't know if I'm quite there, but top 8 seed in the East next year, I think they're there. I think next year's the year that they really show that this is a team that's a legitimate threat in the East. And all these guys are still on their rookie deals. Like they are far from where they're going to be at their best.
Just to add to that real quick, and then I'll let you go, Jay, and then Trent, because it looked like you both were going to go. And also, too, like when you said like Gary Harris, who can still be a good defender at times, like this guy in the playoffs, and I'm sure he's hungry to be back in the playoffs because he was on a Denver team that was one of the best teams in the West both those years. Obviously, now they're champions, and they weren't then, but they were still one of the best teams, one of the biggest forces to be reckoned with in the West. And he always rose to the challenge in the playoffs. Like he defended Damian Lillard for big stretches and for some points shut him down. He defended Paul George for some stretches and at some points shut him down. So if we get a scenario where let's say they do make the playoffs, let's say they're like a 6, 7, 8 seed or something like that. And if they have to play Philadelphia and James Harden's there or Cleveland and Donovan Mitchell's there or something like that, like he will probably embrace that role in being the guy to guard them. And that's only going to make things easier coming into, Markelle Fultz being in the playoffs, who he only really had that series in the bubble, or like Anthony Black, who's a rookie, or Cole Anthony, who doesn't really have this experience if he's on the team. So it's only going to make that easier for them to have a guy like Gary Harris that can accept that challenge and has proven that he can thrive under those conditions too.
I just wanted to say, because you guys are like so willing to let Jalen Suggs go. Jalen Suggs is a pretty good defender himself, and he has some way better shooting mechanics than Anthony Black. Jalen Suggs kind of really gives me Kyle Lowry vibes. But I just want to say, Jalen Suggs was drafted in that 2021 draft with the 5th pick. And because he hasn't been able to stay healthy, he doesn't have much value on the trade market. So you're just going to let Jalen Suggs you're not gonna play him, or you're gonna let him walk? You're gonna waste that 5th overall draft pick with a guy like Josh Giddey that got drafted right behind him? I'm not too sure about that.
Well,
I
the
just feel like
problem
That's
is
the issue.
the problem is they have 5 dudes, right? So someone's not going to get played. So they need to make a decision before they just let someone rot on the bench and his value deteriorates even more so. And like you mentioned, Suggs might have better mechanics. He's still not a good shooter.
Yeah.
He's still not a good shooter. So
Terrible shooter.
at this point, you can mention the fact he's a great defender. You can mention the fact he's a good athlete. The thing that's least of need on this team right now is defense. So the guy who's laying his cap on his NBA career on the defensive end is the guy that I'm most likely to give up on. And if you're giving up on a guy who's good defensively right now at the guard position, you're giving up on him, or you're giving up on a guy you just drafted at pick 6. So it's tough. I get what you mean, because his value is definitely lower than you would like it to be right now for where they just drafted him 2 years ago. But that's kind of the spot they're in right now, where they just have a plethora of options at the guard position, none of which are elite, but a lot of which are solid. And Suggs is probably the least solid of those guys. And you can mention the fact he hasn't been healthy, but that's probably a concern in its own right at this point. So I think there's a lot of reasons to move off of him. It sucks that you're going to get less than you would like back for him after picking him at pick 5 a couple of years ago, but that's just where they're at this point.
Now let me say this.
One more thing, and then I'll let you go, Trent. Sorry, I was just gonna add too. And like of those 5, like I feel like Gary Harris might not be used that much in the regular season, but come playoff time, obviously he's gonna be used more. So especially like Anthony Black or Cole Anthony, who might be like playoff rookies essentially, if they made it this year, they're probably not going to be getting as big of a role as you want, like right away. Now, Markelle Fultz probably still will because he has a little bit of experience, but that's where it's like, okay, Jalen Suggs also is in that mold. He's not probably, in my opinion, he's probably not as good, or I don't think he'll be as good next season as either of those other two that don't have experience. And at the same time, Gary Harris provides that as well. So it's like, it just doesn't fit in well on the team.
All right, outside of content, I think we're done with Magic, correct?
Yeah.
I just want to say, for our first 2 days, I believe, since uploading, man, shout out to the Twitter. The Twitter is growing followers over there. We're at 20 followers. We was at maybe 10 or around there. I'm not sure. For the Instagram too, we about to hit 30 followers. So shout out to that. As you see, the growth is coming in. And then for the TikTok, we're already getting comments, and they're good and bad comments, and I like that. We're getting called casuals, and that's what, and it's cool. I like that. You know why? Because
love to see that.
We're trying to get recognized in a sense, and that comment about Atlanta, we all agree Clint Capella got to go. So I don't know why he's calling it casual, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, the TikToks are at 21 followers. We got 9 videos out. We're already about to have a video that's gonna hit 1,000 views, man. So let's keep pushing.
And there's a couple of you guys I see still in here watching right now. So if you're doing that and you haven't already, be sure to like this stream, subscribe, check us all out in the video description below. Check out our socials. You can find our link tree, everything, man.
Man,
Facts.
I feel like if we keep this pace with 2 TikTok videos, 2 TikTok videos, 2 YouTube, the sky's the limit. You know, the sky's the limit. So
we going up, baby.
Sure.
Definitely.
Threes, we're locked in.
Matter of fact, I got my sweater. I'm not even wearing it, bro. What's going on?
I think my sweater came. I can't get it until Monday because my
bro. They gave me a second shirt with it that said "Farmers are badass."
Yo, that's wild.
And then the back of the shirt, I didn't even see it. It said Web 17. I don't even know what that is, but I was like, bro, somebody's trolling me.
Somebody waiting on their farmer shirt, bro. They're gonna be pissed when you got
it. Mad as hell. They didn't get their farmers' badass shirt.
I was saying, do you have the shirt on you right now?
Nah, it's in the washer. I gotta wash my shirts before I wear them.
Man's getting ready,
bro. It's about to be a hoop shirt for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. But on that note,
where you get that shirt from? I don't know.
On that note, I'm going to bring us back to our next team that's on the agenda. The Washington Wizards have finally decided to move off some boys. Bradley Beal is out. Kristaps Porzingis is out. Most notably, Jordan Poole is in. They also selected Victor's teammate, Bilal Coulibaly, at pick 7 in the draft. So we're going to start with you, Steph. What are you thinking about the recent changes in Washington, and what do you foresee for the rest of the summer?
Will Dawkins. If y'all don't know, that's the Wizards' new GM. They fired Tommy Shepard. Will Dawkins is cooking. He is in there trying to cook up a 5-course meal. And we already saw it with the trades, with the trade with Bradley Beal, bringing in the picks that you brought in. Crazy. Tingus Pingus, out of there. We good. We don't need him no more. Jordan Poole is about to show the world how good he really is. There's been a lot of slander on his name. There's been a lot of people saying he's not that good. He's a shot chucker. He's this, he's that. I talked my fair share of shit too. Don't get me wrong. But that's just because I like to talk shit. I like to troll. But Jordan Poole is about to show you guys how good he truly is. And with this Wizards team, the sky's the limit. And I think Will Dawkins is going to take them there now. They have Kyle Kuzma. He's looking for reportedly about 20. Is it 20 million or 30 million?
I think didn't the report come out say 30?
Well, regardless of what it is, I know it came out to about 4 years, 100 million. Sign him. That's not that bad. I don't know why people are tweaking. I guess the per
I think
year
it was 4 years, 120. That's why.
It might have been a little bit more or something like that. But regardless, that's still around the same kind of contract that, you know, someone like Jaylen Brown is getting. And if you think, I'm not going to say I will say my opinion, but I'm not going to say it right now. But if the Wizards think that Kyle Kuzma can continue to develop, become a more consistent, efficient shooter, and be a guy that can help Jordan Poole and be with Jordan Poole as both a shot creator, shot maker, then I believe give him that deal. Give him what he's asking for. Do not bring Kendrick Nunn back, because I'm going to tell you as a Lakers fan, he's garbage. He has some good games with you guys here and there. He's trash. I don't care. I don't know how he's still in the NBA. Nihao, Kendrick Nunn, you are I don't know how to say their first name, but you're a Tiger. You're going to Shanghai. You're done, buddy. Taj Gibson, you're done. Cook, you need to retire. You're old as shit. You're a Bulls legend, but buddy, why are you still here?
Yeah, I don't know. Why is he still here?
Garrett's like, chill.
No Taj Gibson slander, man.
And then
Come on.
you have Jay Huff, I want to say, I could be wrong, but I know he won a player accolade in the G League this year. I want to say I got to look into that. But he was a player that the Lakers had early in the year. And I believe the Lakers actually drafted him, but they had him on a 2-way contract. And I liked him personally. I think if he continues to develop, he continues to be a guy that shows he's making progress, making steps. He's a guy that takes, one of these guys' roles that are leaving the team. You extend Denny. I think you extend him because he's shown to be a pretty good perimeter defender. I think he's a guy that going forward, he could be a pretty good 3-and-D guy, pretty solid going forward. And then from there, you already brought in guys like Tyus Jones, Danilo Gallinari, who's coming off an injury, Mike Muscala. I will forever denounce and hate Mike Muscala strictly because of the Lakers trade. So I'm not even going to go there on him. Landry Shamet, trash. He's garbage. I don't care what nobody says. He's okay on the defensive end, but Landry Shamet is garbage. I do what you want with him. I don't care. He sucks. That dude sucks. And when you let Cam Payne take your minutes, when Cameron Payne, anyway, Rollins, I don't care. Do what you want with him. But regardless, this team, they got some cooking, and it's too late. It's been way too long. We've been waiting for this, but it's crazy to say it might be the perfect time that it's happening now. And I just like what the Wizards are doing. I'm going to have to go get my Jordan Poole jersey because it's about to be a pool party in DC. I ain't going to lie.
Now, I liked everything that Steph had said. He pretty much hit on all those topics. About damn time, like LeBron said, about damn time they traded Bradley Beal, bro. That contract was absolutely nasty. And along with Will Dawkins, a guy named of Travis Slank, I believe that's his name. He orchestrated the PG to the Clippers trade when he was with Oklahoma City. He spent some time with the Clippers as well, and then came to the Washington Wizards. So he has some resume. He has a resume on building a good team. And I think the Washington Wizards are on the perfect track. Bringing in Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole is about to have a phenomenal year. Don't be surprised if he's an all-star as well. I love Tyus Jones. I'm not too sure how much run Tyus Jones will get because now you have a surplus of guards on your team with Monte Morris. You just drafted Bilal Coulibaly. So it's going to be interesting what you guys do with the guards. But Kyle Kuzma is a free agent. And I know he's not the oldest, but he no longer fits the timeline of your team. So I don't expect for him to come back. Taj Gibson, he could be a valuable vet. I don't know how much PT he would actually get, but I would definitely look at bringing him back. Denny Avita, he has to come back as well. I like Denny on the Washington Wizards. I'm not sure how much on-ball activity he will get, but I'm definitely bringing Denny back for sure. The Washington Wizards are interesting. They went full rebuild mode, and I think I know they're not going to be good for the anytime close, but I like that they finally executed and went to rebuild mode, something that the Portland Trail Blazers need to do.
Yeah. I mean, like you guys both said, it felt like it was a long time coming for the Bradley Beal move. I feel like there's not really too much to add, I would say, other that you guys even really touched on. I mean, let's face it, they're going to be a pretty bad team. Now, I will say, I think with what they have, I feel like they're not going to be – I don't expect them to be like the worst record in the league next year. I feel like they'll probably be somewhere like a 12 or 13 seed, like just with everyone playing to their max potential. But they just have like a lot. And I mean, like it feels like they have a lot of guards, like probably like 7 of their best 10 players or like 11 players are all like point guards, shooting guards, something like that. So they're going to be a smaller team for sure. But I mean, this allows like some of the younger players, whether it's like, a Corey Kispert or, if you bring back Kyle Kuzma, give him that money, give him a chance, give Denny more of an opportunity. It feels like it would have been nice if they had not traded Rui like midway through last season now, and you kept him with this team. So, I mean, I guess they're probably regretting that a little bit. But just like Steph said, Landry Shamet is horrible. He needs to like be in a different country, maybe planet. And I think like, I don't know, like it's going to be good for, guys like Daniel Gafford, who, now he's going to definitely get more opportunities as well on the offensive end, because it felt like he was more so just like that traditional big role. And he plays with a lot of energy. So I'm kind of excited to see that now with like this team that doesn't really have a direction right now other than down, like just to try and get the best picks possible. That's on the table. But I do think Jordan Poole's going to have a pretty good year as well. And assuming Kyle Kuzma's there as well, they're both going to have better seasons and kind of put people on notice like that. I don't think the team will, but I think they'll put people on notice. Shout out my guy Gallinari. I think he's going to come out this year. He's going to still have a decent year and remind people how he can be valuable to some championship contenders. And, he did, I believe, accept he had an option, and he accepted that. So he is on expiring now going into next summer in 2024. So if he's playing well, like maybe averaging like 12 or 13 points a game or something like that, and he's starting for them and he's staying healthy, most importantly, still shooting well from three, I would expect him to definitely be a candidate for a lot of contending teams come the middle of the season. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think, Gabe's been high on Tyus Jones on this team, but I think Tyus Jones will probably have a solid year. Kendrick Nunn, like you said, like I don't even think he should be in the league probably anymore. But I do want to also, like, the last thing I'll say is I think them drafting Bilal, like that's probably one of the better draft choices, I would say, in the whole draft, even though like it felt like most of the time he wasn't even projected to go as high as 7. And even the days leading up to the draft, most mock drafts had him like, I think like 10 or 11 or something like that. But I think he's a good addition, mainly because he matches a lot of these other players, these young players in the team now, with the high intensity. I don't think he's afraid to draw contact either. And I think he's someone like long term, like you can definitely invest in. So, they're gonna be bad for a couple of years now. So they can definitely like count on him for a couple seasons at least. And I think he's gonna prove to be a valuable player moving forward. I do think also just because, being with Wemby, I feel like he probably was the most underrated, at least most underrated player in the draft class that had a decent amount of hype. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like not enough people were talking about him because everyone was talking about Wemby. But, I mean, this guy can hoop too. So I'm looking forward to see how he plays this year. But, yeah, I don't know what the Wizards are going to do. I do think, though, they will be a little bit better than people think, but still not good like this coming season.
Yeah, for sure. And what I was going to say about J Huff, he's the reigning DPOY for the G League, and he averaged 3 blocks while being all defensive. So that's a big that you're going to look toward, going forward.
Exactly.
Absolutely, man. Shout out J Huff, a Laker product. but I don't even want to talk about that one. What I do want to talk about, not gonna lie, Jay, I don't know if I'm feeling that take about Jordan Poole. You said wouldn't be surprised Jordan Poole's all-star this year.
No, hold on. I just realized that the Washington Wizards probably won't be good enough. So let me backtrack on that.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
I'm not gonna lie. Like,
I honestly forgot.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Not only that, but I also feel like even just his play, I don't know if he will be all-star play this year. Not only because he's a guard, and we know how crazy talented the guard is, and right now is in the league, but also like this is going to be his first year in like a number 1 option, or I guess if you want to say he's number two option role. And I mean, we just looked at PJ Washington taking that jump. We talked about that earlier, right? Him taking that jump and him taking a lot more shots and not being as efficient. I think it's the same thing that's going to happen with Jordan Poole, and even worse because he's already an inefficient player. But I think this year will be a lot of learning lessons for him. It'll be a huge learning lessons year for him. So maybe I'll agree with your take for next year. But ultimately on this team, I don't really have much to add. I don't want to just sound like broken record or y'all hit it all. I mean, I think they're going to be a bad team, to be honest with you. And I have this like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a take or opinion or what it is. I don't necessarily know if it's going to make sense. It makes sense in my head. So y'all let me know if it doesn't make sense. But I think, Tyus Jones is great to be on this team. But in a way, I think Tyus Jones is just like wasting away talent on this team, right? Because I think that Tyus Jones, he can contribute to great things on this team and whatnot. But he's going to contribute to great things, and they're going to be the 13th seed. Tyus Jones, I think he's got one of those players that will come off the bench and like be the reason why a team that was on the fringe of winning a championship, you bring in a player like that, and then boom, he takes you over and helps you become a little deeper to where you can win that championship. So I don't know if that take necessarily makes sense. But I'm just saying, like, it's great for the Wizards. That's how that Tyus is there. But I just think that ultimately he's just kind of going to be rotting away there because they're not going to be contending, in my opinion, anytime soon.
He's expiring as well. So I mean, I'm sure after this year, if they're really bad, he'll find a spot.
The Washington Wizards are a very interesting team. And I got to give them credit just for the fact that they or OGN put themselves in a position where Bradley Beal had a no trade clause. So you pretty much had to take a trade that probably wasn't the greatest. But I mean, when we look back at it now, they got a lot of draft capital in return of that. They got 6 second-round picks and 4 pick swaps. Then they flipped. Let's not forget, they had Chris Paul and they flipped it for Jordan Poole. So we got to give them credit just for that too. Also, too, Kyle Kuzma is not returning. I don't know why we're talking about he's going to return. He's not returning. It's just not happening. He's going to go to a winning team or a team that would pay him. And even if the Wizards do want to pay him, he's not returning to that team. He doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to be on a losing team. He's going to be – I don't know what team will sign him. We'll cover it July 1st, June 30th, whatever, but he's not going back to Washington. I do like Denny Avdia. Definitely think he improved. It sucks, man, because when Russ was on the Wizards, Denny Avdia just wasn't that dude. And I still don't think he is that dude, but you could tell each year he's improving very, very well. And so obviously you're going to extend him. Still very young. Only 22 years old. Was a lottery pick in the 2020 draft. So for that, and then Jordan Poole, I think Jordan Poole has a lot to prove to himself because after he got embarrassed in front of everybody, he had one of the worst postseason performance in a while. So he's gonna prove to us and maybe the media in the sense like I'm that guy. So the Wizards don't really have too much. We'll probably talk about them in the next 3 years where their future is going to be heading, but they do have a nice little young core over there. And I don't care anybody says I'm not a big fan of Johnny Davis. No one talked about him in this video, but I don't know what's up with that bum. Dude shooting 38% from the field and 24% from three.
He ended, and I'm just saying this only because I did a video on him. He ended the year off a little better. Like he started to show something, but it's still like
pretty good. Yeah,
beginning of the year, I'm not gonna lie, look like he was like scared to play.
I'm gonna be honest with you
for sure, but he ended the year pretty well. But this was why that was. He had a kid right before training camp, so he literally once training camp started. He would have practice, fly home to what school did he go to? Wisconsin, and he would fly back down. So that was part of what was going into what was going on with Johnny, because I was wondering the same shit. And when I did that video, I found out that he had a kid literally right before training camp.
Now let me say this because I didn't finish. Yeah, he could have played a little bit better, but I mean. These field goal percentage looks like tour dates, bro. Dude shooting 4 for 20, 7 for 20. I mean, 4 for 15. I mean, this is the end of the year. I mean, so and it's not always about scoring though, right? He had 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 2 steals. So, he probably showed up in different apartments, but on the scoring thing, that dude's shooting freaking bricks. So, but I like the Wizards at the end of the day. I don't think they'll be competitive anytime soon, but they're a solid team and definitely, out of the people that they gave up for freaking Porzingis and Beal, can't complain. You get a Tyus Jones, depending what they want to do with him. Maybe he wants to stay over there and you extend him. We'll see.
All right, man. I got some thoughts about the Wizards. I just want to say to the Wizards front office, I apologize because it was not looking good for y'all. I'm not gonna lie.
Don't apologize. It's a new GM.
It's a new GM. It's a new GM.
You know what? It is a new GM. Yeah. So because I'm gonna apologize to him too because I thought that Beal trade was bullshit before the final details came out.
I ain't gonna lie, everybody was calling that trade.
Yeah,
both
that's
fast.
true. That's
Everybody
true.
was.
So that's our fault because the full details hadn't been released yet. So now, for Bradley Beal to have as fat of a contract as he has, and the no trade clause, they got an absolute haul for him. So that's one. Number two, immediately offloading Chris Paul to the Wizards of all people for Jordan Poole. That's like great, and I really, really like that move. Besides that, I feel like, hey, I'm just happy that we done with the inactivity from the Wizards. They picked a side, and the side was to blow it up and start their rebuild. They're not going to be good next year. They're not. But I'm looking forward to the year that Jordan Poole is having, or is going to have, excuse me. So we talk about some of the free agents. Kuzma, he's out of there. Kendrick Nunn, goodbye. Taj Gibson, you can stay around as a vet, but like you're not going to play. Jay Huff, I'm not familiar, but I'm going to go with, based off what y'all said, sounds like a pretty good free agent for them to bring back on the team. As far as extensions go, I wouldn't give one to Monte Morris. I would extend one to Denny Abdia. And besides that, man, it's just like we finally at the stage where this Wizards team can rebuild. They can move on from the John Wall ex Bradley Beal days. I know John Wall wasn't a part of this organization for the past few years, but the last remnants of that duo, they disappeared. Not only that, but a new GM and just fresh faces in DC. So very, very, very excited to see what this Wizards team or Wizards organization is going to do moving forward in the coming years. As far as next year, I don't expect them to be good at all. I do expect Jordan Poole to average maybe 23 a game. I think that's being a little conservative. I think he could jump up to that 25 point per game because obviously he's going to be starting and obviously he's going to be getting the bulk of the shots.
He about to have a green light, the greenest light you ever seen.
The greenest light.
I also want to say about Jordan Poole. He's already being a leader. He already hit up their number 7 pick, I believe. Bilal. Bilal. He already hit him up. So that tells me a lot that he's already being a leader in the sense that the dude hasn't even been there for a month. So shout out to Jordan Poole. You deserve to get punched in the face, though.
As weird as it sounds, and as crazy
wild.
as weird as it sounds, and all the faces and stuff that Jordan Poole does, I genuinely believe he's probably a great pro to have on your team, bro. The way he handled the whole Draymond situation, that told me everything about his maturity. That told me everything about him as a pro.
Remember that video got leaked. It didn't the Warriors obviously didn't put that out. So whatever was going to happen behind the scenes was probably going to get brushed over. And the fact that it did leak, led to what happened.
Here's the thing that makes that worse though. And I don't think people really remember this too much, but before the video even got leaked, probably 4 or 5 days prior, we heard something about somebody being punched in the Warriors training camp. And then it came out that it was Poole. And then later on we saw the video. So it's it was stages of it happening.
And then it was the morning of or something. And then a couple hours after, it was only a couple hours.
Okay,
let me ask you a question.
Well, either way, it was still one of those things where it's he talked about it here and there, but I won't say he hooped, but he just went about his business as he should have did.
Let me ask you a question real quick, Trill. And I'm not even asking this because I'm disagreeing with your point. Just genuine curiosity. What to you was oh wow, he has great maturity because of the way he dealt with it. What made that say to you?
Any and every question asked of him with regard to that Draymond situation, if you go look at whatever interview, no facial expressions, no change in mood, no change in anything that shows you irritation or anything like that. He strictly handled it as it happened. We moving past it. Of course, there's work to be done. Of course, you don't just come back from that. However, we doing our job. We're here to do a job, and that's what we're trying to do. So every single time he's answered that question, looking at him, looking at his mannerisms, looking at everything in the situation, he seems genuine. He seems like he's genuinely trying as hard as he can. Now, if I get punched in the face, you're going to have to see me every time I see you in the locker room. That's just me personally. So they probably would have traded me a lot earlier because I know I'm not an NBA player and I know I'm not a pro and there's a reason I'm not a pro. But if it's me, as soon as I woke up bro.
Next day.
Hey,
Not next day. Not next day.
No.
When I wake up, because we saw that him getting. When I wake up, it's on site. Give me my fair one.
You gonna wake
Because
up in
what
the
you just
hospital.
did.
But I'm not gonna
Did,
but he didn't sucker punch him though. Jordan Poole should have had him up though.
Okay.
Bro, come on, bro.
Okay,
He
Come
should
on,
have
bro.
had him up.
Listen.
You don't
As a
expect
real
your
one,
teammate to get
as
hit
a
by your
real one,
teammate.
yes, you should understand what's happening in that situation. However, we are on an NBA basketball team at
Like,
work.
literally,
I am
they
not
at
expecting
they
you
at
to
practice,
fucking
bro.
get my shit,
I agree.
bro.
No, I agree. But I'm just saying. I agree. But I'm just saying it's not like bro got sucker punched. You know what I'm saying?
well,
Honestly,
I feel
I
like
agree,
no,
though. I
that-
agree.
Sucker punch. That's a
You know
sucker
that.
punch.
I just
How's
want
that
to know
is-
what he said.
Wait, hold on. I feel like we're
Man,
missing the main
Draymond
point.
is a sucker. So
Hold on. I feel like we're missing the main point.
All right.
He
all right,
said
Gary.
something
Thank
to
you.
him, and then I swear, I could be mistaken. I haven't seen the video in a long time.
He pushed him. He definitely did.
Jordan
push him
Poole
first.
pushed him.
He
So
did,
let's not
but,
act like
like,
Draymond Green just said punched him right in the face.
I mean,
No,
to be fair though, he kind of
that's not an
instigated it because
appropriate.
Draymond was getting like
hold
in
on,
his
hold
face.
on. We're talking about it's
as
not
well.
inappropriate, bro. Bro, this happens all the time. It just
No,
doesn't
no.
get
Hold
leaked.
on. I
Like,
didn't
this
let
is-
finish.
But
I
you
didn't
feel me?
finish.
Okay, my
Even
bad.
still,
That's not an
though-
appropriate reaction to, your teammate pushing you. Number one, shit gets physical on the basketball court anyway. If anybody knows that, it's Draymond and teammates butt heads and shit like that.
You're
and
missing a
teammates
point,
get in each
though.
other's
You're
face.
missing a
We've
point.
seen plenty.
You're
of,
missing a point though.
But
You're missing-
Draymond
Draymond-
instigated it.
Draymond
because
got
he was
hot
a little
right
bit
into his
too.
personal space
Hold
and
on,
like
hold on,
kept
hold on.
rushing up against
Bro,
it.
this dude Garrett hates Draymond Green. I ain't gonna lie. But listen, you're missing a
Bro,
point.
no.
He's not wrong.
No, hold on. You're
He
missing a
literally
point.
did
I ain't
that.
gonna
Look it
lie.
up.
Anybody call me a bitch, I'm punching you right in the face. I'm sure Jordan Poole called that
Okay.
shit.
We know what he said.
That was more so the
You definitely-
Gobert.
That's
Very
what I
and
said.
Tyler
That's why I
Anderson
said you're missing a point because to this
Well-
day, we don't know what he said. But if Draymond
Yeah.
Green is one of the top leaders of Golden State and Jordan Poole came out, and Draymond did that, he had to say something disrespectful. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not going with
And
that.
to
I'm
be
not
honest
going
with
that.
you, if
I'm not
I'm
going with
Draymond Green, I'm punching him again for taking that dumbass shot against the bum ass
All
Lakers.
right.
I'm
Okay,
punching
man.
him right in the
Right.
face.
If we
All I'm
really
gonna say, though,
talk,
is
so I
that,
just
like,
I just
bro,
watched.
if
Hold on,
somebody's
real quick,
rushing up
Garrett.
I was just
real
gonna
quick.
say, and then you can go.
Because I
If
just
someone-
watched
If
the
someone's
video.
coming up against me, like right in my space and stuff like that, I'm not allowing that. I'm doing something. You know what I mean? Like, so go ahead, stuff.
But
Because if you
do it,
watch
then be
if
ready
you
to
watch
punch.
the video,
Exactly.
when Draymond walks up to him, he's walking him on the type of time of their chest to chest and puts his you know when you're talking to somebody in their
Yeah.
ear and you about to, that's
Hey,
exactly
remember
what he
Nene
did.
Jimmy
So
Butler?
any and every one of us is pushing a person off of us if they do that.
That's right.
And here's another issue to the point because you're saying that happens all the time.
It does.
It's clear that and it does. I agree. It's
Yep.
clear that happens all the time. So with that being said, you
Why
shouldn't
is
be
this the
punching
time you
me.
fly off the handle?
Yeah, exactly. Why is
Mhm.
this the time
Yeah.
you punch me in my shit? Because I know for a fact with Draymond on the team, I know they talk shit in that practice. We've
Hell
seen
yeah.
a plethora of practices where they're saying worse stuff. Kobe is telling these dudes they soft as baby shit and nobody hit him. I don't care if it's Kobe or not. He's a leader on that team. You calling me out my name, I'm hitting you in your shit. That's obviously how Draymond is. So what I'm saying is I don't care what Jordan Poole said or not. The way he walked up to him is not a leadership quality. It's not something a leader does. That's not. And
Hey, man, I'm
regardless
riding
of
with
it
Draymond
happening
all day.
often in basketball, every time it does happen, the person that punches the other person gets reprimanded for a reason.
It
I
happened,
mean,
man,
look,
uh,
this
it
is
happened with the
Apron with all the
Bulls shit.
cooking
I
he's
think
doing.
This
Come on,
is
man.
look,
Nikola
look, this
Mirotic
is
and Bobby Portis, and Bobby Portis got disciplined for that.
Exactly.
This is
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say. And honestly, like this is the last thing I'm gonna leave it at because at this point now we just going off speculation. Oh, did this, that. But all I'm saying is, thank you. Sure, whatever.
I didn't want to say that. Gary, you an asshole.
We down here. We down here. All right,
Go-
cool. So
continue.
look, all I'm saying is, if Jordan Poole, Garrett, you made a great point. If someone's getting in your face, you gonna put your hand, you gonna like shove them or just be like, "Hey, get out of my face." But if that's the
Yeah,
case,
there's
don't put your paws down right after though, because the second you put your hands on somebody, whether it's a push or a shove or a punch, be ready because they might respond.
We're in
That's
the
all I'm saying.
league though.
You even
We're in
expected
the
that,
league though.
I
That's
don't think
the
he expected to get punched.
that's the whole
thing I
point.
was
We're all
thinking.
we're talking as if it's just regular 24-hour.
It don't
fitness,
matter if we in the
hooping,
leave
whatever.
though. That don't
Stop-
matter.
Hold on.
It do.
I'm done with this conversation.
Yes, it does.
No, it
Let me
doesn't.
finish. Let me finish. It does matter because
don't.
of the fact that
No, it don't.
In the league, when these things happen, they don't just throw punches. We very seldom see that. There's a reason for that. They're not trying to lose their bread. None of this stuff ever comes to fruition and comes into being a actual fight. So what I'm saying is, being that we're in a league, 9 times out of 10, when we come chest to chest and I push you, people are going to hold you back. Something's going to happen and no punches are going to be thrown. That's what happens. So what I'm saying is, if I push you, I'm expecting what normally happens when there's an altercation in the league. You're not going to be able to throw a punch, and somebody's going to grab you and take you away from the situation.
Can I add one thing to Michael Jordan on Steve Kerr?
Can I add one thing to this? Can I add one? Hold on, Trent.
Bro, listen. Look. My fault. I'll let you go. Listen, we're talking about what happens in the game. That's to the public eyes. In practice, no one sees nothing.
Look, bro, that's all.
What do you mean? The difference is there's no one watching.
They still at work anyway.
Y'all know they still get fined. Y'all do know they still get fined.
That's fine. They would take the fine. That's fine.
And the reason they don't fight is because
you gotta realize, bro. You gotta realize, bro. They're human beings at the end of the day. People have different emotions. People take different shit all the time. We all know how Draymond Green is as a person already, bro. Like, yes, I can agree with you. He did not expect Draymond to punch him, but at the end of the day, this is just me. If I put my hands on someone, bro, you got to be ready no matter what. You're saying it's at work. Hold up. You're saying this is at work. You're saying you're at work, but listen, brother, no matter what, this is at a practice court, and no one expected this to ever get leaked. Like, let's keep it a buck. They got money for leaking this video. 100% they got money for the video. You feel me? So it sucks it got leaked, but I'm telling you, this stuff probably happened and stuff, and we just don't know because it's not leaked. That's all. At the end of the day, shouldn't he shouldn't have done it. He did it, right? He shouldn't. But at the end of the day, he did. He felt disrespectful. He probably had emotions. And he talked about that day. He has anger issues. He's going through a lot of stuff. Maybe that's not an excuse, but at the day, Jordan Poole said some wild shit that we don't know to this day, and it probably won't come out. He got punched in the face. That's what it is, bro. Simple.
Devin, what do you think of this whole thing?
All I have to say is this shit happened almost a year ago. Poole's out of town. I'm sure he's very happy to be out of town because, look, we've talked about Poole taking the situation well. You still can't tell me that was awkward as hell for the last 8 months 100%. In that locker room. There was definitely some weird-ass moments in that locker room. Yep. So, glad to see
it affected Jordan Poole's play, me personally.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it.
Yeah, that's not even a question.
And that's completely understandable. So, kudos to him for dealing with that for the last 8 months and getting through it as professionally as he did. Not to mention the fact, like, this is not a seasoned vet. This is a young kid in the league around guys that, leader or not, is still a guys that have a lot of pedigree in the league, guys that have a lot of respect in the league, that have won chips, and that you just have to kind of let them do their thing because they're the guys in Golden State. So kudos to him for how he's dealt with it. I'm looking forward to what he does in Washington, and hopefully that's just the last of this incident and it doesn't become anything bigger than what it needs to be because Golden State are going to do their thing. And Poole's got his avenue now to go out and, like we said, get the greenest of lights in Washington, and having that in a new environment is going to be great for him.
I won't be surprised if he gets punched by Gafford next.
Yo, actually, that'd be a W. Gafford's my guy.
I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying.
There's no point. But
yeah, I was joking.
Keep it pushing.
Yeah, let's move along here. We got one more team to talk about tonight, and that is the Denver Nuggets, the current holders of the NBA championship. And they're at risk of losing most of their bench this summer, or at least the guys that played valuable minutes for them in the postseason. Of course, Christian Braun's going to be back. He's just on his rookie deal, but Bruce Brown is going to be at risk of leaving. Jeff Green is also at risk of leaving, as well as a few other guys like Thomas Bryant, Reggie Jackson. They're going to have to figure out how that goes, and they have their core, but how they go from that remains to be seen. So we'll start with you, Garrett. I know you had some thoughts you wanted to leave on Denver. What do you foresee from them as they enter this offseason? Obviously in a good spot because they just won a title, but still in a situation where they're going to have to figure out what they do with their bench.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I've been high on the Denver Nuggets for a while. Literally goes back years. I just always kind of believed in this core, and like now I know even this year they got the 1 seed first time ever. and everyone was calling them fake except for me. So I mean, well, maybe a couple others, but the point is, like, you know, I've believed in this team all year long, and I think that they have enough to repeat again next year. I think the biggest thing, people are looking at this team, they're like, okay, they won a championship, but like they're not like a dynasty or anything like that. Like maybe they'll win one more, maybe, but like definitely not next year or something. Like if they do, like they very well could win next year. They are the most equipped team currently to win next year. And realistically, if we're looking at what they have in the offseason, they got Nikola Jokic locked up at least for the next 4 years, probably 5. They got Jamal Murray locked up for another couple years. They got Michael Porter locked up for another couple years. Aaron Gordon as well. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, it's locked up next year, has a player option the year after. You know what I mean? Like, and Christian Brown, they'll have him for another like 3 years on contract. So that's 6 of the 8 most important players in this whole entire playoff run, where if we're being honest, they kind of breezed through it. You know, I know like maybe people look at the seeds they played and they're like, they played 3 play-in teams. Well, it's not necessarily their fault if everyone couldn't get there. You know what I mean? So I just think like the way they took care of business, they didn't even go to a game 7, you know, so like they took care of business with everyone they played. Outside of the Sun series, you know, nobody even took more than a game off of them. So I just think like when you're looking at the whole starting lineup is back next year, as well as your rookie who played like bigger than a rookie, and he was coming off a championship on his own when you got him, they're in the right spot. Now, I think the biggest question, or there's 2 big questions really, Bruce Brown and Jeff Green. I don't think Jeff Green's really as big of a question because he is older. I can expect him taking like very minimal money to stay on this team. But I think the biggest question, of course, is going to be Bruce Brown and whether he's going to accept that money. And he already turned down the player option, not really surprised. But, I mean, we don't know if he's going to be trying to get more money because, I mean, as you were saying like earlier about what the heck? Sorry about that. As you were saying earlier about like PJ Washington, I think John was saying it, and I think you were too, Trent. You know, like some of these players, they might not get a chance to get like a big bag like this ever again. And if we've rewind just one offseason ago, even after he was on the Nets, where I personally thought he was the 3rd best player in the playoffs last year, and he was kind of interested in the team that was going to make an offer at him. They chose another guy over him, and he said, "Why'd you choose him over me?" And they said, "If you were on this team, you wouldn't play." And he wasn't really getting many big money options either. I think now he kind of established himself. And really, like throughout the whole entire postseason, and not even just the postseason, all throughout the season, you could tell that this guy has evolved as an all-around player over the last couple of years. You know, in Detroit, he was kind of just more of a slasher and had defensive potential. Now he's a more solid defender, and he's a capable catch and shoot guy. So in that respect, you definitely want to bring him back. Now, at the same time, I don't know what other Nuggets fans might think, but I don't think if you lose him necessarily, it's going to ruin the team, just because I think Nikola Jokic is that valuable. I think he's currently the most valuable player in the NBA. I think he's currently the best player in the NBA. And you also look at Jamal Murray, who, you know, maybe now after a full year under his belt, because at the beginning, you know, I was kind of like watching some of the interviews that he's done. The first couple weeks, he kind of was a little skeptical coming back. Then he found his footing. He got more comfortable about a month in. Next year, he's going to be more comfortable than he ever has been, coming off an NBA championship. So what I'm saying is he's going to be playing better. I think, honestly, it could be good in a way for Michael Porter Jr. You know, it seems like sometimes there's just some players out there where it's like once they get that NBA championship, they start to play a little bit more loose. I think a good example of that, honestly, is like Kyle Lowry. After he won in 2019, there's a lot more times where he's played loose. And to an extent, it has helped him in certain big moments since that time. So I think that could also help Michael Porter Jr. I think Aaron Gordon, you know, just needs to keep working on shooting from 3-point shot. But other than that, they don't really need to go out and make like a splashy move. They just need to bring their team back. And the biggest thing for them is consistency. You know, for years too, I think they kind of also benefited in a way because they're a small market. Because if you think about it, all these maybe bigger markets or have like super big names, like we knew Jokic couldn't go anywhere just with his current contract construction. But if you look at like the rest of these Nuggets players, like in the core, there has been some, but there hasn't been like too many trade rumors over the past couple years, like with Jamal Murray, with Michael Porter Jr., with Aaron Gordon, at least that I've seen. So I think that's also helped them to a benefit that they could like lock in. And now I say that, but this was probably the year that was going to be huge for Mike Malone and his future, because I think this was like the biggest question mark moving forward. And if they floundered, it wasn't going to work out. But they won the championship, and I think that they're proving that they can have consistency for a long stretch of time. They just need to try and bring back Bruce Brown. If they can't get Bruce Brown, there are other players out there that maybe they're not quite as good as Bruce Brown, but they can contribute on a similar level. I don't think that it's a championship level loss necessarily, but at the same time, you definitely want to bring that guy back if you can. So that's really the only thing I would say on their radar, because I do expect Jeff Green to come back. But other than that, I mean, the Denver Nuggets, I think they're just going to be as big of a threat next year and the year after to win the championship again. And I think right now, prior to free agency, they should be the betting odds favorite to win the championship as well.
Let me say something real quick. I just want to just report something. You good? Phoenix is trying to trade for Tobias Harris. And yeah, we can talk about that after, but that's freaking wild.
But Philly doesn't want Ayton because of, so that's what's hanging up the trade. But I pretty much second everything you said, Garrett, with regard to the Nuggets. Bring back Jeff Green, got to. But this team is built for the future. They're built for the next 3 years or so. They're a very, very, very good basketball team. They're actually a team that I paid attention to a lot this year. Bruce Brown is probably gone. The only way they bring him back is if he comes back on a discount. Like Garrett said, players like this don't get to see that payday very often. They don't get to see the same kind of, big contracts over and over that you see some guys get. Like, so he might just very well go for that payday. I think you extend Jamal Murray, but with regard to Bruce Brown, I don't think it's that much of a needle pusher, and it's not so much that they're just, losing a guy that was a key piece. Yes, they're doing that, but if you also look on their list, the same year, I believe he was drafted the same year as Christian Brown, but Peyton Watson is also a very, very good player. He can fill in that Bruce Brown role, and unfortunately, he didn't get too many minutes. However, if Bruce Brown does leave, Peyton Watson is right there. And that's part of the reason I say this team is built for the future. They got guys to kind of replace and fill in for some of their vet guys that they won this year. Like if KCP does end up leaving, you have Christian Brown. They have the younger pieces already there set in stone that have, Peyton Watson, not so much because he kind of fell out of the rotation a little bit. But with Christian Brown, he's shown you he plays winning basketball. So they have a lot going forward to look forward to. DeAndre Jordan, of course, is out of there. He's not really playing any basketball anymore. This, of course, was he got his ring. He got a ring before Chris Paul, whether you believe it. So did Reggie Jackson. Craziness, I know. But with that being,
Trent's gonna be like, man.
But with that being said, this team is very good, and their draft pick in Julian Strawther, I like that pick as well. That's a pick that he's a great shooter. He thrives in the catch and shoot, which is a perfect asset for Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. If you have Aaron Gordon come off the court and you put Julian Strawther in next to Christian Brown, that's a tough team to guard going forward. And then you have Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray that you still have to worry about. This is a tough team to deal with going forward. And in the West, which is honestly wide open as it stands right now, the Denver Nuggets are the absolute best team in the West.
Not if they in the West.
Not if who's in the West. No. I mean open in terms of, like, besides the Nuggets, there's nobody else that we could definitively say is 2, 3, 4, like going down the line. Regardless, it's going through Denver. Yeah, that's just what it is. The next 3 or 4 years, barring some drastic trade, barring some signing, whatever, Denver is that team going forward. And like you said, Garrett, Mike Malone was a big question mark in the past years. I do remember Denver fans saying, like, they didn't trust him in certain situations. They didn't like him in certain situations. And this year he's proven all that to be, I'd say, put to bed. I won't say wrong, because he did have some questionable moments, but he's proven to be a great coach. I remember when Jamal Murray got hurt, he told a story about how Jamal Murray was pretty much, crying, expecting to be traded, expecting to be moved. And Mike Malone was the guy to tell him, no, you're our guy, you're staying. Like Garrett said, that's to this team's advantage, because they can lock in and just play ball knowing that their spot is secured, knowing that they're, the guy within their role for this team. And going forward, the Nuggets, they built an excellent culture, excellent team. And just going forward, they're gonna ride the back of the best player in the league, and that is Nikola Jokic.
Yeah, one thing I want to add, and then I'll let you go, Jay. And actually, you and I were kind of talking about it too, Jay. Like, because you asked me who I thought his player comp was, and I said kind of like Markelle Fultz, not quite the same defensively, but I also like the the Jalen Pickett draft pick at 32, and I think he'll be he could almost maybe fill in the Bruce Brown role a little bit if he's not there too, along with Peyton Watkins too, or Peyton Watson, my bad. But also, like, I think he's a bigger guard and he plays a lot of bully ball, much like Bruce Brown does. So he can maybe create a little bit in several areas on the floor as well. So that's also a nice draft pick. I wanted to give credit to that, but go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I was very high on the Denver Nuggets coming in. I think because they finally got both a healthy Jamal Murray and a healthy MPJ on their roster, along with the addition of Aaron Gordon and now Bruce Brown, KCP. I mean, it was all the perfect pieces to surround Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. But I do want to say something. I don't think a lot of people are realizing the fact that Nikola Jokic might have started a revolution when it comes to the center position. I'm going to go out there and say, if you have Nikola Jokic, Bam Adebayo, Alperen Sengun, or Domantas Sabonis, you are headed in the right direction. The inverted pick and roll is about to take over the NBA by storm. I believe if you have one of those bigs, you are going to be a step ahead of every other NBA team. But in terms of their free agents, Bruce Brown is going to be demanding a lot of money in this offseason. So he's probably not going to come back on another prove-it deal like he was this year. When it comes to Jeff Green and DeAndre Jordan, those two NBA players and Ish Smith, those three are probably the only NBA players that's seen the inside of more locker rooms than the Kardashians. When it comes to Reggie Jackson, I don't feel one way or another about him returning. He didn't get much PT, and I think the Denver Nuggets, the next like 4 or 5 years, like Trill said, is theirs. They're going to be running the league. Nikola Jokic has proved himself to be a unstoppable force. His offense is obviously outstanding. All the questions about his defense was proved to be wrong because you could not expose that no matter
The
what.
biggest lie ever told, to be honest.
Bro, people are still on that too. I forgot. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I read it earlier and it said something about put him in the pick and roll against, I want to say it was Beal and Ayton, and I was like, bro, we just saw him get thrown in the pick and roll all playoffs, and it ain't working, bro.
That shit didn't work at all.
No, but I was pretty much done. You could go, Clutch.
Yeah, man. I mean, you guys talked about really everything, and I second almost everything you guys said. At first, I'm not gonna lie, when Garrett first started talking and talked about how even if Bruce Brown doesn't come back, he could still see them making a championship run. At first, I'm not gonna lie, I had to think about that for a second, how to go on ESPN and really look at their entire roster, look at their entire depth chart, and then as Trill was talking, had to come to my consensus that at almost every single position they have about maybe 2 players that they can go to, so that even if Bruce Brown doesn't come back, like how you guys mentioned, it won't be the end of the world. Although in the most ideal situation, you do got Bruce Brown coming back, because if we're talking about role players as a whole, I think like if there was, I guess, a ranking of role players of who's at the top, who's at the bottom, I think Bruce Brown is the best role player in the NBA. He can literally do any role you need him to do. I mean, Garrett talked about his time on the Brooklyn Nets. He was acting as a rolling big man, but then just like now in the Denver Nuggets, as when he won a championship, he was Jamal Murray's backup point guard at times. He was a spot receiver at times, so he can do a little bit of everything. So it's, of course, ideally you want to bring back Bruce Brown, but even if you don't, I did pull up honestly the free agent. The free agents of this upcoming offseason, and I was just looking at some free agents that they could bring back that won't be an upgrade, but wouldn't be horrendous. But you could bring back Donte DiVincenzo if you not bring back. You could bring in Donte DiVincenzo if you can't bring back Bruce Brown Jr. You could try to bring back. Now this would drop off in the defense a lot more, but offensively, I think he'd still be there. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, another free agent this offseason that you could bring in, and that's more for on the scoring side of things. And then their free agents, I'm in agreement with everything you guys said, of course, about Bruce Brown and all that. And then Jeff Green, try to bring him back, glue guy. It's gonna be like DeAndre Jordan, please retire for everyone else's sake. And then Thomas Bryant, not gonna lie, y'all, like Thomas Bryant stings because as a Lakers fan,
I think DJ is a little more important though than you're giving credit for, because a lot of the Nuggets were giving him a lot of like credit in the locker room. Like he was kind of that guy. So if they can, like, I'm sure they can get him for a minimum at this point, but like it's but if he retired right now, that might be actually one of their bigger losses, even though it might not feel like it because he doesn't play. Really. Yeah,
I mean, if we're talking about morale and vet, yeah, he's a great vet. But between keeping Jeff Green and DJ, I mean, that's 2 roster spots now that I'm filling up with just trying to have morale and character guys. As much as DJ was important, I'd rather keep Jeff Green, who's also a vet, who's also a morale guy, and can contribute a little bit more on the court, in my opinion. But as far as Thomas Bryant, not gonna lie, Thomas Bryant is on the Lakers. It was a really good backup big. Unfortunately,
he had Russell Westbrook. No, we're not doing that. He had Russell Westbrook.
He was a dog. He was a dog.
He had Russell Westbrook again. He had Russell Westbrook again. I'm not giving.
I'll give it to him. I will give him that dog. I'll give him that dog mentality. Because if Anthony Davis isn't in, I mean, if Thomas Bryant isn't in there, it means Anthony Davis is taking all those blows, and we know that Anthony Davis can't consistently take those. And Thomas Bryant stepped up when he was hurt.
Let's keep this.
And I'm saying,
come on, man.
Come on.
Typical Laker fan thinking about them.
Garrett's just hating. I'm just bringing up a point. Thomas Bryant was on the Lakers.
Nuggets preview, man.
Okay, but was he not on the Lakers? I'm talking about.
You trying to gas Lakers Thomas Bryant, man. What are we talking? What are we doing here?
No, okay, I'll talk about on Laker preview, but the fact that
he doesn't understand.
Go ahead, and this is a preview, not a review. Come on,
he doesn't understand. You were making a point, bro. It's okay.
Yeah,
I got you, John. Go ahead, bro.
It sounded like it was going to be into something bigger, and now it is something bigger than it should be. So that's all.
Garrett's just a hater for a living. Anyway, y'all. Anyway, I'm gonna finish up my point before Garrett cut me off. Like I was just trying to make. It was just a point of the fact that Thomas Bryant was a great backup big for the Lakers, and he could be a great backup big for the Denver Nuggets as well. So you want to try to make him a priority to re-sign. But now that I'm done, if you want to talk, go ahead, Garrett. You can talk now, brother.
No, it's my time.
No, I just thought it was going to lead into something way more than it should have been.
Yeah, maybe just don't talk when I'm talking, Garrett.
Thank you.
Okay, well, relax a little bit. Jeez.
Listen.
You woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
Listen.
You just keep cutting niggas off.
Not that serious.
Go ahead, Trent.
I feel like we're underplaying a little bit Bruce Brown's loss. I feel like a lot of people forget when Jokic goes to the bench, the Denver Nuggets are one of the worst teams in the league. And Bruce Brown helped that a lot. I just looked at a stat. Denver went negative 376 in 16,028 minutes with Jokic off the floor. It's terrible. So this happened in the postseason where Jokic couldn't sit out more than 4 to 5 minutes or the lead would get down. So they got lucky in a sense because Miami just wasn't good enough. and just in general, and that's my team. But losing Bruce Brown is definitely going to be tough because not only did he bring it on the defense end, he was their main bench scorer, and so now you're most likely going to lose him, right? So now you're going to look at Christian Brown, who I think could be their replacement in the sense, and he played for the position that he was in his role. I got to give him credit, right? You got to give him a lot of credit. Just putting the effort in, the energy, getting easy buckets, and it's a perfect system for him because as long as you have Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Aaron Gordon around you, if you have cutters, mainly like KCP, Bruce Brown in the sense like that, and Aaron Gordon, it's perfect because Jokic is always going to find you no matter what. He's one of the best centers out here that has the best vision as a center, So I think Christian Brown is known as that. But what he needs to do for the Denver Nuggets to keep staying in that championship level, and I think they will, he needs to gather in the offense and in the sense of getting a jump shot and just getting in the lab and just being better offensively and not be one of those dudes that it's fine you being scrappy because that's how you're getting playing time and stuff like that. But now this next year, we need you to hit open shots, create your own shot and stuff like that. So I like it. I like this team a lot. They're going to be competing no matter what when you have the best player in the game. Jamal Murray, I'm hearing a lot of crazy takes saying he's the best point guard in the NBA right now. I wouldn't say that, but
I think that's trolls.
Those are not trolls. Those are coming from
like Paul Pierce and some
these
other
are
media figureheads.
He said Paul Pierce.
And other media figureheads have said that.
Yeah, for sure. So it's not no troll. I wouldn't say he's the best, but his postseason performance was awesome. You can't complain. And and I'm not throwing shade, so I don't want to hear no biffering with Lakers fans because that's who y'all just played. What I seen from the Lakers series, he fucked y'all up. Simple as that, And so did Jokic but Jamal Murray just couldn't miss. In the Miami Heat series, he still played very good. His field goal percentage dropped a little bit, but at the end of the day, it seems going to be good. You got to bring back Jeff Green for the vet minimum. DeAndre Jordan, y'all would know, Udonis Haslem's a big loss for our Heat team. It's going to be a huge loss, and I feel like Udonis Haslem is like the DeAndre Jordan to the Denver Nuggets. So they can bring those two guys back. They got some draft capital. And I like what Denver's going to do. And I think they're going to rule the West for a while. The West is pretty weak. Just besides like maybe Phoenix for talent wise, but we got to see them play together. The Lakers are always going to be involved no matter what because of LeBron and AD, but I don't really think that'll be competition too much. And that's Denver for you. So good luck.
I don't got too much to say about Denver. I definitely don't agree with the DeAndre Jordan, Udonis Haslem thing you just said. Unless you know something I didn't, I don't agree with that at all. Hopefully for them, they don't end up losing Bruce Brown. Probably likely something that's going to happen because he is looking for that payday. And I mean, you never know. He might want to come back for the discount because he really thinks he can run it back with this team. And they certainly can run it back. But in my opinion, Bruce Brown, although it would be a big loss, that's a loss that you just suffer through, especially because of some of the young talent that they got. Trill, you pointed at it. They got Peyton Watson. Christian Brown played big minutes already, and he's a rookie. Peyton Watson's also a rookie, but he played good minutes as a rookie in the finals. You get a year, not even a year. You get a whole offseason of training camp, development, all that. Then you come day one on the regular season, might not be in the starting lineup because we still don't know what the full lineup is going to be. But I could see him getting even more rotational minutes, along with Peyton Watson etching his way into the rotation as well. As far as the Nuggets as a whole, I see them. They're basically they in the same exact position that the Bucks were. Not the same. They in a very similar position that the Bucks were in when they won their championship. After that, we was like, yo, this Bucks team, we can see them winning another one back to back. We can see them as top players in this Eastern Conference for a long time. And that's what
just to add to that, and I'll just to add to that, like because you're talking about the Bucks right now, like I feel like Bobby Portis was in a similar situation that Bruce Brown's in right now, where a lot of people thought he was going to maybe leave because he wasn't going to take that money, but he did take a pay cut then and he stayed. So it is possible, but continue.
Damn, I kind of lost my train. Oh yeah. So I see this team as basically the Eastern Conference version of the Bucks. They got when the Bucks won, they had the best player in the world. The Nuggets got the best player in the world right now. Got the co-star who came up big in the playoffs. Co-star who came up even bigger in the playoffs than Jamal Murray. Got your ancillary pieces that helped with the run in Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis, and then you got Aaron Gordon and Bruce Brown, and you can even say Christian Brown. So yeah, the Denver Nuggets. They have a very, very, very promising 4 or 5 years. After that, we really don't know because anything can happen in 4 or 5 years. I mean, look at the past 4 or 5 years in the NBA. That'll tell you a lot. So should be an eventful free agency if things go their way. If not, they might struggle to find something or someone to replace that role that Bruce Brown, played for them. But even still, I'm not too worried about it because of the talent that they have, sitting on their bench that they have to develop. And at this point, they've done a pretty damn good job of developing their players.
Let me just say this real quick, and I don't know if you have anything else to say. I feel like we haven't talked about him a lot in this video. Aaron Gordon, right? He had an all-star season this year. You can say borderline, right? But I do want to say this. What Aaron Gordon we going to expect? Is he going to continue to play like that, Aaron Gordon, right? And he could because he's playing with Jokic, and it makes it look it's easy buckets for him. He but I do want to say this was his best year, statistical wise. Everything was his best year, right? From 3-point shooting, he's at 34.7. I mean, he had a year with 34.9, but similar. Rebounds, besides rebounds, too. I'm looking at this, but his point wise, he has 16.3, and that's pretty good to be like a third option, fourth option, that. So. Yeah, so that's very, very good. If he keeps playing like this team is going to be fine. But that's just personally my question mark because I've seen Aaron Gordon play mediocre basketball with the Denver Nuggets, So if he continues to play like this team's going to be fine because we're not worried about Jokic. We're not worried about Murray. We could be worried about a little bit Michael Porter Jr. He has his on and off switches sometimes and stuff like that.
I think he'd be all right.
Aaron Gordon. If he plays like that,
I got an answer for that.
What's up?
I think that on the offensive side, they're not going to worry too much about what version of Aaron Gordon they're going to get because Aaron Gordon, they're not looking for him on offense as to create his own shot anyway. And again, if he's cutting, Jokic gonna find him. Murray gonna find him, as we saw from the from the finals, averaging 10 assists. So I think that as long as he keeps his his defense, which I don't see any reason why it would disappear after not even an off season.
He fucked up Jimmy. He fucked up Jimmy, man.
My thing is
not even just Jimmy throughout the playoffs.
Even past that though, I don't want to demean how good Aaron Gordon has become because there were moments in this playoffs run where there were series ran through him. There were sets ran through him. So I'm not going to demean Aaron Gordon getting better as a player because he has in these last 2 years. And it's shown with this Denver team. Now, yes, having Jokic makes that a lot easier, but Aaron Gordon has become a better basketball player in the last 2 years. What I was going to say regarding, because you guys said it was kind of close to the Bobby Porter situation. For me, it's yeah, but no. The place it stops at being similar is the fact that he has a chance for a payday or he stays for a pay cut. But again, when you look at the Denver Nuggets, they have Peyton Watson, and then they just drafted 2 other guards. They're preparing to lose Bruce Brown. And if they don't lose Bruce Brown, then great, amazing. But they have a guy, and I'm high on Peyton Watson. I know we haven't seen too much from him, but what I've seen in terms of, because like I said, I followed the Nuggets very closely this year, very intently. He's a player that has shown some flashes, and he has given them very, very good minutes. And I'm not saying that replacing Bruce Brown is easy because it's not by any means. However, they have some things set in place to actually do that, which is why I'm not really too worried about Bruce Brown leaving if he does leave, because like Gabe said, Jalen Pickett, great pick, Julian Strawther, another great pick, and they're both guards, and they already have 2 other guards in Peyton Watson and Christian Brown. So I think they're preparing for him to leave. And again, I'm high on Peyton Watson, and I think what Bruce Brown gave them, Peyton Watson, he's not going to do that immediately, but he will get to the point to where he is providing that same sort of production and that same spark plug that Bruce Brown gave them.
Devin.
Yeah. All I'm gonna say is going back to earlier, Jay. That's still wild what you said about the Kardashians, man.
It's true.
That's insane.
What do you
That's
say
saying
about
how
the
they've been in more locker rooms, or Ish Smith's been in more locker rooms than the Kardashians.
Tell us what you think, Devin.
Yeah, I ain't got much else to add on this Denver team. I mean, you guys said it. It's priority is Bruce Brown. He's probably going to walk because this is probably the best opportunity in his career to get a bag, and he should go chase that bag. He's already got his ring. He's more than fine on that front. If he wants to run it back and get more rings, I respect it, but fully deserved on him to go and get his bag. He has more than earned that. And outside of that, it's just going to be what they can get from their young guys. Can Peyton Watson can play well? Can their rookies play well? That's going to be what determines how good this team can be moving forward from a standpoint of whether they're a title contender or whether they're by far and away the best team beyond everybody else. Like, they're going to be good regardless. Whether Bruce Brown leaves, whether he stays, they're going to be a top-tier contender either way. But whether they keep him and how those depth pieces perform outside of what they get from Bruce Brown and Christian Braun moving forward, that'll be the little needle movers for them over the next couple of years. But I'm not concerned about Aaron Gordon. We know what Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic are doing. They're going to be an elite team for a while, and nothing this offseason that happens is going to change that.
Sounds good.
Facts.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Any more topics?
Only if you wanted to talk about that Tobias Harris rumor you mentioned earlier, but
I don't even like that for the Suns.
To be honest with you, the Suns are just going on 2K. They go into the settings and press override, and they're just taking every single trade. Because at this point, like, getting Tobias does not make you better, or like I don't get it. But either way,
go ahead. I thought you were done. My fault.
Yeah, either way though, this was a great stream. I'll let you go, TB. This was a great stream. We talked some good hoops and good debates. I think we need a little bit more debates in a sense. For you know why. And then shout out to everybody that came through. Shout out to Garrett. I don't know why Garrett keeps laughing. Shout out to Garrett.
Yeah, I'll tell you why after.
All right. Shout out to Garrett. Check out the link tree. But yeah, y'all got anything else to say for the guys? And yeah, shout out to Devin for running the show. Yeah,
that's all I got.
W stream.
Hit that like button below. Check out the links. Subscribe if you
back.
enjoy. We will see you guys on Monday. Correct.
Yeah.
See you guys Monday, same time, same place.
for sure.